Well, what a night we've got in store. The sun is shining, it's a blue sky, it's Friday night, absolutely perfect for T20 cricket. And let me tell you first of all, the news on the toss. Hampshire won it. James Vince called, well, he didn't call actually, of course, because Stephen Eskenazi, the Middlesex captain, was calling, but he called incorrectly, and Hampshire are going to have a bowl. We'll talk about the teams in a moment, but myself, Kevin James, and Melissa Story is here. The Middlesex commentator is still stuck in traffic. That's Kevin Hand, Melissa.
Yes, and I've heard he used to work here at BBC Solent, and as Adam rightly pointed out, I think he should know better with the traffic which you get around the Ageas Bowl at this time. I mean, it's brilliant to see how many people have come to the stadium tonight, and you know, the numbers were piling up and up since the end of that Vipers Storm game, which obviously saw the Vipers, the reigning champions, record their second win of the Charlotte Edwards Cup, which was brilliant, and now people are hopefully expecting to see a better performance from the Hampshire Hawks than they saw on Wednesday.
That's for sure. So, these two teams have already been in action in this competition. Middlesex as recently as last night. Their first game ended up as a loss to Surrey at Lords. Probably talk about the crowd there at some point. It wasn't very big. And Hampshire, well, they had a game to forget a couple of nights ago at Taunton, where they lost to Somerset. 74 all out was their lowest ever score. Let's go through the two teams. Shall I go through the Middlesex team and you do the Hampshire team, Melissa?
Yeah, that works.
Should we do it that way? I'll do it the other way around. So Middlesex are actually unchanged from the side that lost to Surrey. They are Stephen Eskenazi, the captain and opening batter, Joe Cracknell, Peter Milan, Max Holden, Ryan Higgins, Luke Holman, John Simpson, Martin Anderson, Nathan Fernandez, Tom Helm and Blake Cullen. And
for the Hampshire team, the order goes: Ben McDermott, Australian overseas, opens with captain James Vince, Tom Prest at 3, Joe Weatherly at 4, Ross Whiteley followed by Toby Albert. James Fuller is back in the side, he takes the spot of Scott Curry. Then it's Liam Dawson, Chris Wood, Nathan Ellis and Mason Crane.
So those are your two teams that are lined. If you look at the T20 South group, these teams are 8 and 9 already, and with only 9 teams in the group, I think it's fair to say that, well, it's not a great start for both.
Not a great start for both, but both of these teams will have a point to prove tonight, and Hampshire fans will know that it's traditional to lose the first 4 to 5 games and then go on to make finals day. It's how we do it, it's how we keep the fans engaged, it's how we keep the suspense going.
That's what kept me going actually at Taunton, was everybody was ranting and raving about how great Somerset were, and I said, well, I felt like saying, look, it's not how you start this competition, it's how you build up going through the group matches.
And it's how you end it at finals day, which last time they ended it losing to Hampshire. So bye-bye Somerset.
Not that we're really anything against them, of course. As regards record in this competition, remember this competition started in 2003. Well, Hampshire have been to finals day 9 times. They've won it 3 times, which is equal with Leicester, the most times by a county. For Middlesex, well, they won it back in 2008 when the competition was here that year. So long time since Middlesex really have done anything in this competition.
It is, and you know, if you look at their side on paper, you know, they don't maybe have the benefit of their opposites in London, Surrey, who of course they played last night, and you know, you look at that lineup and you've got the highest recorded IPL player ever in that team, and you've got names which a lot of people know. You know, they may not benefit from that as much, but they have incredibly reliable T20 players, and I think just for their, you know, from their point of view, they don't put together those performances as a team enough. And I think it was spoken about on commentary yesterday about even just playing Sunil Narayan for Surrey. Each player kind of looked to play him from an individual basis rather than how should I play him for the sake of the team. And you know, that there was a bit of resistance from Max Holden as well, and I think the players, similar to Hampshire as well, I think struggle with this. Is, you know, yes, you want to do well individually, but in T20 you've got to all like work around each other. You know, if you're contributing a quick 20, that changes the direction of the game.
That is for sure. So we are literally about 6 minutes away from the start this evening, and beautiful sunshine, as I say. Absolutely wonderful evening, and a no better night for a T20 game. He's like the Pope.
He is. Doesn't the Pope have a bulletproof glass one now, though? Hopefully Hawkeye isn't in as much danger as the Pope. I might need to jump off air in a second just so I can get a wave in. I think that would be good radio, wouldn't it? Something none of the listeners can see.
Melissa's off. She's looking for Harry the Hawk to give her a wave. Good crowd, as I say. It's building up, expecting around 7,000 here. There's quite a few already in. It's a wonderful atmosphere. He is like the Pope. He's round the west side of the ground at the moment. He's outside the boundary rope, just inside the boundary boards, and he's waving. Now, is he going to spot Melissa? He's waving. He's coming round now. He's got to look up quite high if he's going to wave, and look up. And this is a running commentary of this game, let alone T20. Has he looked up? I'm not sure. I can't tell. No. Has he? I'm not sure. Melissa's falling around as if Chris Wokes has waved to her, actually. Anyway, just back on the team news there. Important, James Fuller is back in the side. He's been ill. He's got a virus which he's struggling to shake off, and we just hope that tonight isn't too soon for him, but he's back in the side at the expense of Scott Curry. I guess after that performance you had to make a change, and they did. Well, did they miss James Fuller? I mean, the game was almost all over before it started, but the fact that James Fuller's back in, I think it just gives the side a better feel. He's
that glue sometimes which brings the team together, and he offers so much with the bat and ball, and even just in the field, you know, you can hear him from up here, even on the quietest days in the championship, you can still hear his voice, and you know, he's a much loved character, so the fact he's here, he's battling through a virus, it sums up his character as well. You know, he's so just hard-working, he's a fighter, and you feel that he will be an integral part of this bounce back for Hampshire tonight, if they do indeed bounce back.
That is for sure. Did he wave to you?
No, Lanky the Giraffe's now my favourite mascot. I'm afraid.
You're so fickle. I mean, like you know, just because he didn't wave to you, you don't like him anymore.
Yeah, that's it. I've got a very low bar for friendship, and
all the build-up, and then it didn't happen.
It's fine. He can make it up to me if he waves at me in the next game.
So the Hampshire Hawks are out there in the middle in their bright yellow tops and dark blue trousers. Middlesex in their familiar pink tops. I think that's pink. There might be another fancy colour for that, but it looks pink to me. And it's going to be Stephen Eskenazi to face the first delivery. And Stephen Eskenazi, highest run scorer for Middlesex in last year's competition with 431.
Really struggled this year for runs, both in the red ball format, and didn't manage to get any runs under his belt last night, and he'll be keen just to get started here today. We've seen this pitch has looked good so far. You know, I got word from some of the Storm girls after the game. They said they didn't necessarily bat very well on it. There wasn't much swing after the first over. There wasn't any spin, but the ball did skid on. So
here we go then. James Vince obviously thinks this wicket is going to stay good. Here we are, first ball then as Wood comes in, and Eskenazi hits that into the ground, and he's called for a quick single by Joe Cracknell. We are underway. Kevin Hand is here as well from Middlesex and BBC London. He's scoffing some food. You eat that food. We don't want you suffering indigestion as well as being late and stuck in traffic, otherwise it'll be a poor night for you. We can't have that. Middlesex actually won this game here last year between these two by 10 runs. It was the start of Hampshire's competition, and of course we all know that they lost the first 4. Didn't start well here. Here's Wood, left arm over, bowls, and Cracknell pushes that up towards mid-wicket, and there's no run. It's also a slightly different Hampshire team, which we're used to seeing from last year, because no Brad Wheel. Of course, he's injured at the moment. He's set to make his comeback for the start of August, of course, for the start of the 100. And I was waiting for like a confetti cannon to explode then. It's building up, it's building up. Have I told you Kevin Hand loves the 100? Oh, I can't wait to talk about it with him. I honestly can't. That's going to be the highlight of my night. But Brad will only probably be back for the spirit in that. That's too close to cut, really, Cracknell, and can't find an angle as it goes to Mason Crane at backward a point. And he's a really important player because, you know, he gets those overs in the power play as well, but also in the def. And yes, Hampshire have got Nathan Ellis back, which at the end of last season I spoke to many Hampshire fans, and they just said we do not care what happens as long as 2 men come back, Mohammed Abbas and Nathan Ellis. And they're both here. They're both here, club heroes. Yeah. Well, actually, Mohammed Abbas has gone back to Pakistan for a couple of weeks, but apart from that, he is here. That's a drive up to wide-ish mid-off, and that'll take Middlesex up to 2 without loss. I think by now in Taunton, laughing. We will talk to him about Middlesex's performance last night at Lord's in a moment. I don't think many of us, all of us here, haven't got a lot to talk about our teams in this year's competition thus far.
Well, at least it hasn't been as bad a start as it was for the Western Storm. I think they were 1 for 2 at this point.
Well, they were, yeah. There was wickets falling in that one. Down the wicket, that's a hoik away on the leg side. Huge 6 over mid-wicket. Huge.
Wow.
Great shot, Eskenazi.
I mean, we were debating whether the boundary was going to be pushed back very much on the boundary to our left. I don't honestly think it's been moved back too far, but the ball smacked into the advertising boards. And a good bit of intent in the first over. This will be a good pitch. Eskenazi. Well, I mean, I was completely just shocked that he wasn't picked up in last year's 100. Of course, he did fantastic in the Royal London Cup.
Just walks across his stumps, tries to paddle that one on the leg side, little scoop, but misses it really. I think it cannons into his pads. It'll be called a leg bye, and that's the end of the first over of the evening. Bowled by Chris Wood, and Middlesex having been put into bat on 9 without loss.
But he's actually, I'm going to admit this early on, Stevie Eskenazi is one of my favourite players from the non-Hampshire team. He just seems like a really nice guy. And he follows me on Twitter, so I've got to say nice things about him. But I am being genuine. And I'm going to try not to curse him.
No, he is a good player. There's no doubt about it. He strikes at 139 in T20, which is pretty decent.
And Hampshire looking to introduce spin early on in the innings with Dawson bowling in the power play. He's going to have long off. Deep mid-wicket, it seems. Interesting field from Dawson. Anything on the sweep here, potentially Eskenazi is a boundary option. Anything with too much width as well. Here comes Dawson over the wicket. Flitter swept past the fielder, away for 4. Starts the over off with a boundary. And Middlesex, positive start from them, 13 for none. I don't understand the field, to be quite honest with you. I mean, it suggests that he needs to be bowling a lot fuller, but if you're bowling fuller, that invites the sweep. Yeah. So essentially by having one off and a deep mid-wicket, what are you asking for the bowler to bowl really? When you've only got the luxury of 2 fielders outside the power play, it feels like you need to put them on the same side so you can just attack one of the boundaries. But he sticks with the same field. Does Dawson, bowls a flatter delivery, pushed off the back foot by Eskenazi to long off, and a single was taken. Score 14 for none. Brings Cracknell back on strike, and there is a change of fielding position as mid-off is brought back inside the ring, the captain James Vince, and long on in position now. For me, this field makes more sense, but they've clearly been doing a little bit of research on Eskenazi to have otherwise. Dawson into Cracknell, who's in defence, playing the ball right out in front with his front pad. Good dot ball.
Kevin Hand's coming in on... Do you want him to come in the next over, and do you want to stay on and talk to him, or would you like a break, or do you want him to come on a bit later? He said he might have seconds, so he might come on a bit later.
Dawson bowls reverse switch. Hit from Cracknell, doesn't beat the fielder at short third. It's another dot ball. Dawson certainly bowling at a quicker pace. You know what, I don't mind. It's been a particularly difficult 1.4 overs. You know, I have been working quite hard. Maybe I want the seconds as well. Maybe both me and Kevin are going to go get the seconds together. Dawson bowling, swept again over the head of square leg this time. One bounce into the crowd. 2 boundaries off the over so far, and Dawson, when he's just straying a bit too straight, it invites that shot.
It's a length for the slog sweep, isn't it?
It is, and that is to the, I mean, the shorter boundary, would you say? It feels shorter just because the rope is closer to the advertising boards, and it's more inviting, it feels, to watch the ball go into the crowd rather than the big open space on our left. 1 ball left in this over from Dawson. He's in, back of a length and pushed off the back foot. Quick single take, extra cover. Get through comfortably in the end. That's 10 runs off the over. Middlesex 19 for none.
I'll tell you what, do you want to go? You want to have a break? I'll tell you, we can do the first 6, and then I'll bring Kevin on. You can have a break. How's that? Right?
That's okay.
There we go. We'll do the power play.
And then I'll probably go sit in the corner and have a little cry about how Hawkey didn't wave at me.
I know you're dying to go off and sulk now.
I'll keep my composure for our fantastic listeners.
So we're going to have a change immediately at the pavilion end. Westwood who bowled just the one over that went for 9, and it's Nathan Ellis.
Did you hear that cheer from the
Lovely.
crowd? He is absolutely here. And no wonder why. I mean, last year Hampshire's tournament was summed up by a series of quite unimpressive totals batting first, but their bowlers were just able to defend anything, and it's what got them to finally stay in the end.
He's bowling to Joe Cracknell then from the pavilion end, comes in, and Cracknell, slower ball, tries to pull that away, misses, but it's down the leg side, and it's a wide.
I love the slower ball on the first delivery, because often, you know, you'll see the pacers set it up with 2 normal speed deliveries and then the slower one to catch them out, but Nathan Ellis just going for that element of surprise. Unfortunately couldn't execute it to his liking, but no matter how many times you see it, it's deceptively good.
It is, yeah. I must admit, not even I picked that up, and we're in a great position here as he bowls. That's down the leg side again, but a quicker one. Good take from Ben McDermott. We've had 2 opposite ends of the speed spectrum from Nathan Ellis, but unfortunately both have been down the leg side.
Rather than going for the surprise with a slower ball tactic now, maybe it's just the classic under 13s wicket after wide. We've had 2 wides, that equals 2 wickets.
Oh dear. So 21 without loss then. Middlesex were in the 3rd over, although we haven't actually had a legitimate ball in this 3rd over yet. That's straight, wrapped on the pad. There's a big shout for an LBW. That looked high to me. And they've called through for a leg bye.
It looked high, and Nathan Ellis was spending so much energy appealing to the umpire, begging for that very, very ambitious LBW that he didn't actually realise he could have stopped the Middlesex batter sneaking through for a quick single. But with the field he's got set, you understand those first 2 deliveries why they went down the leg side, because he is targeting the hip, trying to keep the ball away from a slightly shorter boundary, although as I say, that mid-wicket's been brought up inside the ring and covers being sent out, so whether he's just changing this approach now. But then again, it kind of asks questions. It's actually points being sent back in the end, so it's still going to be back of a length, you feel, but maybe not as straight.
That's right, yeah. He can afford to bowl a little bit more off stump. That is, and that's worked to mid-wicket. That's a good delivery there from Nathan Ellis. Normal pace, brisk, that's for sure. And that's right on the money. Eskenazi can't find a gap there. He's 12 off 6. Cracknell is 6 off 8.
And Ellis isn't the tallest of bowlers as well. He kind of waddles back to the top of his mark like a toddler who's just been told to go sit on the naughty step.
Runs in pretty pacey. That little skip, doesn't he does at the start of his mark. Here he is then, bowls again, and that's a length ball again. This time they will pick up a single. It just goes to mid-wicket's right hand. I think that's, who's that out there? That is Toby Albert, the youngster. He's got a double 100 in the 2nd team a few weeks ago. He's in good nick.
He's almost at the top of the list now, you'd say, for the county championship. People are saying after that 200, who's to say he's not the next opener, which Hampshire should try out in their long list of openers trials.
That's right, yeah. There's Ellis bowls. He's wrapped on the pad. That looks very close, and he's gone. Joe Cracknell goes for 6, and Nathan Ellis strikes in his first over. Middlesex 23 for 1.
Looked at, I mean, if you're following along on the live stream, as hopefully given a replay at some point, I think he stepped across his stumps a bit, so it gave the deception that maybe it was going down more. I think maybe clipping leg stump. It was one of those ones where it was either obviously going to go your way or not, and in this case it doesn't. But I think because Nathan Ellis is such a skiddy bowler, it just sped up on him a bit, didn't bounce as much as he thought, and in the end pins him on the pads. First wicket to fall. 23 runs on the board. Brings Peter Milan to the middle.
Peter Milan then, 33 years old, South African. Was signed by Middlesex halfway through the last year, and they've re-signed him for the whole of the competition this year. Right-hander out there in the middle. This is his 56th T20 game.
You've got all the stats today.
He's actually played 3 tests for South Africa as well. And they were against England back in 2020. That's all the international cricket that he's played. 23 for 1 then. Is it my over? I can't remember. Yes, it is. Here's Ellis bowling to Milan. and then gets a length ball there. He's a little bit late on that, but it goes out on the leg side where there's a gap and he'll pick up a single. He's off the mark straight away.
And it's smart to be bowling this length because it is slightly back of the length, but because he is skiddy as a bowler, Nathan Ellis, as I said, it speeds up the batters a bit more, so they're in the mindset that they need to be going back because this is a length I traditionally go back to, but actually it's not bouncing as much as they expect, and then suddenly you'll have a bowler come on like James Fuller, where if he bowls back of a length it could be going past your head. So you really can't settle, and I think Hampshire like to change things up with the bowlers to make sure they can't. Yeah,
definitely. Length ball there, and he hits it into the ground. He wants a single, but there isn't, because Nathan Ellis is quickly onto it on his follow through. Gets a round of applause. Quite right. He started with 2 wides, but he dragged it back. 1 over, 1 for 4 for Nathan Ellis, and Middlesex after 3 overs are 24 for 1.
Just trying to think how many wickets Nathan Ellis would need in this T20 Blast to get given the key to Southampton. So did you hear Harry Brook recently got given some kind of award in Bradford?
Did he?
They've got the
Freedom of Bradford.
Freedom of Bradford, yeah, maybe. Not sure. Does it mean you can do whatever you want?
Well, it's symbolic, obviously, but I don't. Well, I think. Actually, I don't know what it means, but I think it technically means that you've got the run of the city. What does that mean?
I would trust Nathan Ellis as mayor of Southampton.
Does that mean that if the town hall's locked at midnight, you've actually technically, if you want to go in, you're allowed to go in? I don't know.
Yeah, it's the equivalent of walking into your living room. Don't see an issue. James Fuller into the attack, who's battling with a bit of a virus, but it's not going to stop him here as he's bowling to Milan. It's full, it's worked off the pads out to deep mid-wicket. There's protection on the boundary, a good sliding dive from the fielder. Allows Middlesex to get through for 2 runs. 26 for 1 the score. And as we said, he bowls with just that little bit extra pace, I guess, occupying in some ways the Brad wheel role in the power play that I guess in last year's competition he would be used more in the middle overs, bang things in a bit shorter, but he's got a few more fielding restrictions bowling in the power play. As that swung over the head of mid-on, just bounces inside the ring. Can the fielder bring it in? No. He got enough on that one, Milan. And the fielder running backwards. In the end, can't scoop it in. Another boundary.
This is where it's tough, isn't it, really, with your fielding restrictions. You can only have 2 outside the 30-yard circle. It is difficult, isn't it, knowing where to put those 2. You've got a player coming down the wicket there. Do you put mid-off, mid-on back? They haven't done yet.
It was Albert, the fielder, in pursuit there as Fuller's in again. This time can only be dropped into the offside, and the point fielder, who is right back on the inner ring, charges in. Can't stop the single. Score moves on to 31 for 1. I mean, the game we saw here earlier between the Storm and the Vipers, it wasn't a high-scoring affair, so we didn't really get an accurate picture of what this pitch is like, apart from the Vipers seem to chase down the 106 with relative ease, as you would expect from any team. What kind of score, from this first impression, do we think is going to be needed on this pitch?
It's a tough one, isn't it?
Fuller over the wicket and navigated down to deep third by Eskenazi. Just a single. Managed to pick out both the fielders so far. Scored 32 for 1.
No, you've seen a lot of cricket here now. I always think 160. I always think sort of 160 always gives you a chance here. I mean, last year Middlesex won this game by 10 runs, made 160.
I'd also
Hampshire got 150.
Saying, the general scheme of T20, 160 is pretty. I'd say it's an interesting score though. Both sides are still in with a chance of a 160 score. As a slower ball was worked to the onside, and good running from Eskenazi and Milan, as it wasn't timed, and recognising that the ball wouldn't quite get to Albert at mid-on in time. There was room for a quick single, and it's really been impressive so far, making sure there's hardly any dot balls, apart from a few in that last over from Nathan Ellis. But even then, the over started off with a few wides and going along at a run rate of 8.6, so making the most of the power play. Fuller bowls down the leg side, tickled past the short fine leg fielder for 4, and he'll be disappointed in that delivery. But the pace he's got on show, can't stray from your line that much. It completes the over. 37 for 1 after 4 Middlesex.
13 runs off that one. It is difficult in the power play, isn't it? Because I mean, you have got to think about the batter. You've got to think about what length you're going to bowl, what line you're going to bowl, because you've only got insurance through 2 fielders, isn't it? It's difficult when Peter Milan comes down the wicket. You're probably not expecting Fuller to go over the top, but unless he gets it right in the slot. If he bowls back over length, you're not expecting the ball to go over mid-on, mid-off. If the batter starts using his feet, as Milan did there, and hits over mid-on, mid-off, it gives you a bit of a problem, doesn't it? And then you think, well, I'll bring it back over length a bit more to stop him doing that. And then, of course, there's the shot off your legs. There's the shot either side of the wicket. Here's Chris Wood back into the attack, as that's a length ball to Milan, who pushes that out behind square on the offside. You heard the call of no.
I understand, obviously, Hampshire's reasoning to bowl first if they believe this pitch is going to stay pretty true to itself across the innings. They'll be going, if it's good to bat on now, surely the team chasing will be in a strong position, will know what it plays like. But at the back of my mind, there is always that worry that sometimes we see pitches here completely bogged down by spin in the second innings.
Yeah, that is a worry. Here's Wood. Length ball there, and it's driven hard out towards extra cover. That's a good stop. Ross Whiteley, I think that is.
You can tell by the shoulders they're about 2 metres wide, I think.
I think that's him. He may have just put on a bit more bulk.
Maybe he's wearing
over the winter.
Maybe he's wearing a t-shirt with shoulder pads in them.
Maybe he thinks he's playing American football. 37 for 1. The field's changing. Mid-on and mid-off are swapping. Vince has decided to go to mid-on. I think that's Vince there as well. It's a long way away in the distance there. As Wood comes in again and bowls, he's walking down the wicket and hits it high over mid-on. It is over Vince. And it's 1 bounce 4. Lovely shot, Peter Milan. Played 2 of those quite nicely.
Really lovely. And Chris Wood isn't quite an express pace as Nathan Ellis or James Fuller. And because he's coming from that left arm angle, when he bowls into the pads and doesn't quite get any of that away seam, it's a bit too full. It really is in the arc of the right-handed batter.
Here's Chris Wood again then, left arm over. Bowls to Milan again. Milan gives himself some room and cuts that away behind square on the offside. Throw that goes in at the bowler's end. It's home though, and he moves on to 14. And that's come off just 9 deliveries. The one player out so far, Joe Cracknell, LBW, so Nathan Ellis for 6. That came off 9 deliveries. Middlesex 42 for 1 here. 2 balls left of the 5th. It does look a good pitch at the moment, doesn't it? We knew that from the as you say, from the first game. It's just whether it stays this way or changes in nature as the darkness falls and the lights come on.
Eyes may light up at the sign of leg spin, but so often in T20 you see those wrist spin. It's just making it an impact, and yes, they're going to be a bit more expensive, but that's why you've got Dawson as the alternative spin option to kind of pin things down a bit more. But Crane got a chance in the Red Bull game. He played in the final county championship game of this kind of duration. He got a bit of confidence up through that. He bowled well, and there actually wasn't that many loose balls, and of course he wouldn't like that if I was a bowler. As Nathan Ellis comes in, slower ball, Fuller worked out to deep square by Milan, can only get a single, so throw comes in from the deep. I mean, it's that kind of situation where the captain throws you the ball with only 6 needed to win and says, go on. You're going, why me? You put yourself on to bowl. Or at least in Mason Crane's position, he could be going, you top order got out all for about 30. I'm not doing this. Love to see James Vince bowl in the T20 Blast as well. Nathan Ellis skips in his run-up as he paces in. That one's uncomfortably worked, flat-batted round the corner to square leg. The same result of a single for Eskenazi. Just realising not as much bounce from that delivery again, and Eskenazi was in the position to pull that one, realised the ball was coming at him a lot slower and kind of twisted his whole body round like he was in The Exorcist, and nevertheless picked up a single. Deep cover, deep square are the 2 fielders out. Ellis past the umpire, bowls, this is hit in the air, can mid-off get round? No! Bounces just too far to the left of James Vince. You heard the shouts of the Hampshire fielders to catch it, and James Vince is a tall man, but he may have just had to have arms like Mr. Tickle to get that one. Score moves on to 47 for 1. Now that is something I would love to see. Which Mr. with arms like that? Or Mr. Angry if he was a fast bowler. Ellis bowling, edges, bump ball to point. And for once I didn't fall for that one. The rest of the crowd did.
They did, yeah, you could hear them.
Absolute suckers.
They thought that was a wicket. It's a great crowd,
for something like that. I mean, it is a brilliant crowd, and you know, for a lot of people, a lot of teachers can let their hair down for this next week, come to the cricket.
We've already had a teacher on the balcony.
We've had a teacher, Charlotte's come up.
Yeah.
Hopefully she won't bump into any of her students. Ellis bowling tight to the stumps, it's pulled round the corner, short fine leg, can't get round, a lot of work for the fielder at square leg, can't make it. And it's a boundary, straying off that length, onto the hips again. Brings up the 50 runs for Middlesex. Just 1 ball left in the power play.
So I tell you what, when we look to our left, that's where, I mean, the sun's shining right to left as we look, and to our left, in that bank of crowd, there's a lot of people in those seats there, just to our left, this side of the tunnel.
I mean, you've got the sun chasers, haven't you?
Yeah.
The people who obviously know designated seating here, so you kind of shuffle your way about as the sun goes down. Ellis, final ball of the power play. Fuller flicked in front of square. 2 fielders converging on the boundary to scoop up, and results in just the 2 runs off that final delivery. So Middlesex finished the power play.
Beauty to make the conversation even better at the front of the box as Crane bowls. It's whipped away by Milan on the leg side. There'll only be a single this time. Yeah, you've got to up your game now because you're actually being heard by many people.
I don't know why I left BBC Silent, I really don't.
Well, it was your choice. But I think part of it was that you never turned it up anywhere on time, but you got there 5 minutes before something started. Here comes Mason Crane from the pavilion end. Down the wicket, over extra cover, and flat, almost 6 inches inside that extra cover rope.
Is this the same side that played last night?
Well, you tell me.
I mean, well, it's funny, isn't it? But that's T20. And the one thing I said, it was a heavy, heavy defeat for Middlesex last night. It really was. And it was a bad night. The half-empty Lords, heavy defeat. There was a really dull feel about yesterday, even a really heavy feel about the whole night.
58 for 1, yeah. I looked at some pictures. That's driven by Eskenazi past the diving Crane up to mid-off, and it's 59 for 1. Well, tell us about the crowd.
A lot of really, really, say, depressed people.
Here's Crane, and that's driven down the ground in the air, and that could go all the way. It is 6 runs. That's another flat shot from Peter Milan, who moves on to 24. driven past him along the ground this time up towards deep mid-on, and Milan moves on to 25. That's come off just 15 deliveries, 66 for 1 Middlesex.
What was the line that Vic Marks wrote about the game, the county game withering on the vine?
It's, you know, I think if it happens on a regular basis around the country, I think you've got to worry.
I think that was that sent shockwaves last night. I think
this is a standard crowd. Friday night T20 in the sun. He's bowled him. Middle stump out off the ground, and Stephen Eskenazi goes, and that's Mason Crane. He just produces a ball from nowhere. That's why he's in the side, and he's done it right there, right then.
Wrist spinners in T20 cricket. That's why they're so successful. They do come up with the goods, don't they? They're expensive in first-class cricket, but in T20, was it the googly from him or was it an inside edge? It's come back and gone through the gate, hasn't it? From the leg spinner. Yeah, fabulous delivery and a big wicket.
See, if that was in Championship cricket, everybody would be saying great. I mean, they're still saying great now.
Yeah.
But that is a classic leg spinner's googly wicket where it's gone through the gate. And of course, with T20 cricket, batters are obviously sort of, you know, quite, a lot turning the bat around in the hand, and they're pushing away from their front foot, stuff that you would never do in the Championship. And you leave yourself wide open for balls like that.
Well, I was going to say exactly that, really. If that was the leg spinner, the outside edge is fully challenged as well there from Crane, isn't it? So it was a fabulous delivery because it's come right back through the gate, and a big gate, as you say it was. So Eskenazi, he would have had a tighter defence. He would have played a tighter stroke in another format, possibly evenly stayed. But in the blast, you've got to get going and keep going. They kept going a little bit too much for me, Middlesex, last night. They were ahead on the runs, one behind on the wicket, but they kept on going. Just thinking, you got time, you know. It isn't a T10. T20 cricket, you do have a little bit of time, and it seemed as though, as I said on the commentary last night, they wanted to win it in the next over. Well, you're not going to win it in the next over, but you can sure lose it. Yeah. And that's what they did. Here's Dawson down below us at the hotel end. He bowls, and this ball's clipped out to deep mid-wicket for a single. Milan moves to 26, brings Holden on strike for the first time, 66 for 2. First left-hander in for Middlesex. He was the opener with Eskenazi last year. Drops down to number 4 now. That's something I'm not wholly sure about either. 3 right-handers at the top. Then you've got 3 out of your next 4 are lefties. It feels to me as though in T20 cricket, break up the right-hander, left-hander. You don't really want it 50-50 like that. I'll come back to last night in a moment just to wrap up finally, but here's Holden's first delivery, deep backward square, deep mid-wicket, long off, long on, and deep backward pointers. Dawson is left arm around the wicket, he bowls, and oh, it's edged. Past the keeper it goes, just pushing gently outside of the off stump. Unfortunately for Holden, it floats past the edge of the gloves as well. He's off the mark with the boundary. Middlesex is 71 for 2.
That's where, isn't it, when you close the face of the bat, looking for the angle, with the ball already going across you, you're not showing a full face of the bat, so you just run these risks. But that's a safe area in T20.
Yeah. Dawson. Reverse sweep from Holden. Just a single out to deep backward point. He loves that shot. Max Holden. Short third up inside the circle. Single more. Holden's on to 5, 72 for 2. It was really, I looked at the other side of the grounds and thought, it's just a shame, isn't it? I didn't realise the top 2 tiers of the Compton and the Edgerich were shut as well. Yeah. And when I saw that, it was just heartbreaking, really, as here's Dawson dropped short and punched by Milan. Doesn't pierce the offside, though. It's fielded at cover. Because it came up on the TV. It was a televised game last night, and it showed the picture of the. And I double looked. I just thought, really? Both of those, I thought they were at least going to be full because they were great positions to watch from. As Milan works a single out to deep mid wicket off Dawson, and he moves to 27.
I mean, it's no exaggeration to say that whether it's the Oval or Lords, those fixtures, Middlesex, Surrey, over the last few years have always been 20 odd thousand.
Yeah. So there's been nights, Thursday nights at Lords, where they expand the group, and you've got Somerset at Lords. So it's a long way for Somerset fans to come. And it's not one of the local derbies like Kent, like Essex, Sussex, Hampshire as well. There's Dawson in again, bowls, and just dropping a fraction short. This is worked out to deep mid wicket for a single. 74 for 2, and he's on to 6. But there was, always sticks in mind, there was a Somerset match there on a Thursday night, and there was only 7,000 in or so, something like that, maybe a little bit more actually, 14,000. And even then, you just felt like, are we doing the right thing here? I mean, that was when they really expanded the group stages, and the question was, look, you used to fill up Lords when you had 4 home fixtures or so. Now you've got X number of home fixtures. It spreads out the flans a little bit more. But my question to be here tonight, as you say, what, 7,000 or 8,000? the question, right, great, because that's what you usually get.
Yeah.
But are we looking to expand this competition, or are we leaving it hanging in the balance? And as we saw last night, the balance is tilting one way.
Yeah, I mean, would any more than 7,000 or 8,000 be here? I mean, I think they've touched 10 on a few occasions, but you know, you're probably looking at a different time of year slightly. But the weather's perfect tonight. It is half-term week as from today. Now that's hit in the air. This could be caught at deep mid-off, and he's gone. Max Holden caught in the deep, and that looks like James Fuller that's taken that one. Comfortable height, and Middlesex have lost their third wicket with a score on 74.
Yeah, Max got going last night, Max Holden for Middlesex, and he looked as though he wanted to keep going, was going to keep going, but holed out this evening as well. So the end of Holden, and Middlesex just needs to be a little bit careful once more. Milan's going nicely at one end. I'm going to heap too much pressure onto him. Out will come Ryan Higgins, so another right-hander, and then Simpson and Holman to come. There's still a long way to go in this, and Crane is on a hat-trick. It was last wicket, the last ball.
Oh my word, you're right. Oh my good.
I've just seen it on the big screen.
Ah,
Phew.
There's me thinking, even though you've been stuck in traffic. And
You can't get it past me, Jamo.
You're still on the ball.
Past the cigars, Adam.
You've had two dinners. You probably had mine. And you're still on the ball. I think you'll sleep well later.
Oh, definitely.
So here we go, Mason Crane hat-trick then. As Ryan Higgins. Now what's he going to bowl? Is he going to bowl the googly? Will he bowl the googly here? Will he chance it and hope he get it right? He got it right to Eskenazi. Here he comes in there, not a hat-trick. Bowls, and there's a reverse sweep on a hat-trick. Gets it, and it goes on the 45. There's no run, but that's a cheeky bit of batting when the bowler's on a hat-trick.
He's one of the cheekiest players there is, Ryan Higgins. He really is. Tenacious was the word that Angus Fraser first used to describe him to me when he first broke onto the screen, the scene even.
Here's Crane again. There's another reverse sweep, and he misses that. He gets wrapped on the pad. Crane's asking for an LBW, but even on our angle, it doesn't look right.
Must have been outside the line.
Left. Yeah, we're about 3 or 4 tracks to the left, but high up. As we look, it didn't quite look right, did it? Higgins is none of 2 then, having played 2 reverse sweeps. 74 for 3. Here's Crane again. Comes in and bowls, and oh, he's bowled. Has he got an LBW there? That is very, very close indeed. He's stuck on the crease, Higgins, and it almost like he wasn't sure what that ball was doing off the pitch. It looked like he didn't know it was a leg break, top spinner, googly. He looked absolutely out of all sorts, and that is close. That is close. Well, he's living a charmed life already. He's only been out there 3 balls. Crane comes in again. There's another reverse sweep. Gets hold of that, but that's a great stop. Back with a point. Liam Dawson. Athleticism shown by Hampshire's left arm spinner. Superb. At full stretch, diving to his right, and Higgins 4 balls and yet to get off the mark. 3 reverse sweeps in that. They've reinforced that offside as Crane comes in again, and Higgins gets off the mark now as he works that up towards mid-on. What an interesting over that was. Not a great one from a Middlesex point of view, because only 1 run came off it, but a wicket fell as well. And Middlesex are now 75 for 3, 9 gone.
Yeah, it's only 3 down, but like I say, it's got to be a little bit careful. Helm coming in at 10, Fernandez, the 19-year-old, at 9. All of a sudden, he threw a couple of wickets. Kevin James, Melissa Story, Adam Blackmore bringing you the Friday night sports show. Myself, Kevin Hand for BBC Radio London. As Dawson's left arm around the wicket from the hotel end. Steps in now past the umpire. Bowls, and this is dabbed back to him by Higgins, wristily dabbed back to him rather than killed. He's looking to give himself every chance to try and find an angle, try and manoeuvre something. Around the wicket he goes, shadow stretching out to his left. You see the sun set away. Cross behind the Shane Warne stand. There's a big pick up into the onside. Is it big enough? It's close. It's gone just over the top of deep mid wicket. And wow. Mightily close. It probably would have needed somebody alongside him to flick it back into if he'd have got a hand to it. Otherwise, he'd have gone over the rope with it. But 6 it is for Higgins.
Yeah, Ross Whiteley out there. I think on the other side of the ground that would have been taken.
Yeah. Higgins goes again, but with a flat sweep this occasion to deep backward square. He moves to 8, 82 for 3 Middlesex. And the 10th over. You were saying with Melissa 160-ish.
It's a decent score around here. That's pretty much par.
Middlesex reaching the halfway stage, 82 for 3. Stepping across is Milan to drive down to mid-off. He really does look a cut above, and I feel like I've seen it more in the T20 than I have in the first class game, even though he's more renowned for his first class and list A exploits. But not a bad T20 player. He does have 100 to his name as Dawson bowls. Higgins works out to deep mid-wicket, and it's 84 for 3. He moves to 9. One to come of the over. Higgins will be up against his former county Gloucestershire on Monday at Merchant Taylor's School.
Oh, we love Merchant Taylor's
I know
School.
you do, so I thought I'd bring it up.
Yeah.
What was the place we kept mentioning last year? This will get Lorraine Poole and
Radley.
everybody back in the office going.
We got Radley.
It's awesome. Bowls. This is driven down the ground to long off for a single. 85 for 3.
I love Radley. That's near where I used to.
Don't bring it up again. Don't go there again.
I love it.
Leave it.
No, seriously, I do like it. I know you think I'm joking, but I do like it.
End of the over. 85 for 3. Halfway stage.
Yeah. What was I going to say? Yeah, Peter Milan. It's interesting. I was just looking at some stats before the game, and that he strikes at 117, which is incredibly low for a good player like him in T20 cricket. I mean, he's striking about 140 at the moment, and he was a lot higher than that earlier on in his innings. He doesn't look like a player. I mean, 117, an out-and-out batter.
I mean, he's a Test match opener, so but he's not a Test match opener like David Warner or.
His crane again, and that's worked away on the onside by Milan. Goes out to deep mid-wicket. That'll be a single. Moves on to 30. He's striking at 145 in this innings so far.
So, yeah, he's in to be a proper cricketer in first class and list A, but they've got him in for the entire season, so they're going to use him for this as he's here for the entire campaign.
He's put a couple of nice shots over the top, hasn't he, early on? His crane into Higgins. Higgins goes for the slog sweep over mid-on, and that's going for 6. That's not a bad hit.
Yep, he's a good signing, Higgins, and PCA Player of the Month in Division 1, and that's from a side that had a bit of a struggle at the start. They've won 2 in the Championship, lost 4 Middlesex. Where they'd have been without Higgins, though, I dread to think. He scored a 50 in each of the first 4 matches, all in the first innings as well. First innings runs for him.
92 for 3. Crane again from the pavilion end, comes in and bowls. There's the reverse sweep again, but there is a field set for that now.
Yeah,
that's Toby Albert just this side of the umpire.
Interesting, that, isn't it? There's a lot of room. They're trying to convince him to go for an orthodox sweep, aren't they, against the spin, with only the deep backward square. Other than that, you've got the short fine leg and then all the way to deep mid-wicket.
Crane in again then, bowls, and Higgins just quietly plays that out on the onside where there's a huge gap. There's always a single there and he collects it. McDermott runs from behind the stumps, 93 for 3. Higgins on to 16. It's a really sort of shaky start from Higgins in his first over. That LBW shout was very, very closely indeed. He just looks like he's just away now. He's got his innings mapped out anyway. He just looked a bit shaky the first few deliveries. Here's Crane and bowls to Milan. Milan's on the back foot, cuts that away to deep point, where Ross Whiteley's away to our right in the shadows. And the total moves on to...
Yeah, Sun's emptied the other side, hasn't it? The Shane Warne stand. Sun's at the back of that stand.
Shady on one side and Sunny on the other.
A bit like the commentary.
Yeah. You're getting funnier actually the more you do with this. 95 for 3.
It's only taken 20 years.
Yeah, no, for 11 years. You had some lessons during the winter.
19th season, Jamer. How many years have you been doing it now?
Not as long as you. But too long. I'm saying I've done it too long, and I haven't done it as long as you.
25 I was when I first started this, so I was 26.
You're only 80. To be
how old would I be?
You're not going to do 50 seasons.
How old's the oldest? Anthony Gibson? Is he the oldest of us at the moment?
Must be close, mustn't it?
Could I do it? Could I go all the way like Anthony, bring up a half century?
That's a lot, isn't it? That's a lot of rubbish talked over the years.
Lord help the listeners. Here's James Fuller up against his former county. Another former Gloucestershire man eases his way down. One former Gloucestershire man to another as Higgins eases his way down to deep third, just fine in the deepish gully.
Yeah. Do you remember the year Fuller got 6 wickets for you guys here in the T20? Do you remember that?
Probably his finest hour, wasn't it? I mean, he had a few in the Championship, but Here, you boys are looking good in
What
the
a player he
championship
looks
again
here.
this year. Who?
Fuller.
Yeah.
Mate, you wouldn't recognise him here. You would not recognise him as a player.
But he gives everything, doesn't he?
No, he's superb, man.
Always gave everything when he was with Middlesex. As he's in now, Bowles, and this ball's pushed back down the ground to long on for a single by Milan. 97 for 3.
He's probably still got the effects of a virus. He's been ill for about a week and a bit. He's got a virus which has really laid him low. Didn't play in the T20.
Well, Adam said he felt he was labouring a bit earlier.
Well, I walked past him and I must admit I thought...
Oh, was it you that said it? Yeah, yeah.
But, I mean, listen, they wouldn't play him unless he was, pretty close to being fit. But
it's funny, he does it as athletic as he is and enthusiastic as he is in the field. He does kind of have that impression off the field, doesn't he, where he's dragging himself a little bit. Yeah. Comes in now, Bowles, and Higgins steps across a long way outside of the off stump, and Fuller, great radar, followed him, and Higgins really had to adjust, almost as though it was a championship game, and he just got squared up by a length ball. He turns himself around, the hip and the shoulder come around, and he dabs a single down to deep third again, 98 for 3.
He's ideal, Higgins, isn't he, really? Because he's a bit unorthodox. You're not quite sure what he's going to do when you're bowling, and that's quite off-putting as a bowler.
Well, that's the thing about Milan, going back to Peter Milan, he's just a quality cricketer, isn't he? We've seen quality cricket shots from him today. Powerful man as well, strong man as his. Fuller in bowls, and there's a perfect example of it. He's just slapped that straight of mid-off. He was totally wrong-footed. He was thinking about going to his left towards the covers, but Milan actually really went through the bottom hand, didn't he, and pushed it straight at the fielder for 4. 100 up for Middlesex.
You know, sometimes, you can be a proper orthodox player and be effective in this. If you hit through the line with proper shots.
Well, that's where someone like Max Holden, I don't like that Holden's gone to 4. The theory is apparently that he's a good player of spin, so go down the order and play the spin in the middle overs. But I liked him at the top because he was quite an orthodox player. Fuller, Bowles, Milan, he's going to go, it's up in the air. In fact, is it going to go all the way? This is going to be close, it's gone for a 6. Wow! Over deep backward square leg. Leading edge, top edge, somewhere in between the two, really. Jamo, help me unpick that one. That one flew over deep backward square leg as he was looking to sky really towards mid-wicket, wasn't it? It must have just been that 45-degree angle. And it scooped up over deep backward square leg for 6. Extraordinary.
Well, I had that down as a catch initially. That's 2 boundaries on that shortish boundary side that have just cleared the road.
Well, that went so high that I thought that was going to land somewhere around the square leg umpire. I thought they'd all converge around that, but... Fuller in, Bowles, Milan slaps hard into the offside, picks up a single. What's he on to now? 43. He's going to come back for a second. 44. It's just a little bit wider of the fielder. He stepped over and it's 4 more. And Milan indeed moves to 46. Middlesex are 112 for 3 at the end of the 12th.
That's Nathan Ellis. Oh dear, Nathan Ellis. Uncharacteristic. Kevin Hand is going to stay on, and alongside him will be Melissa Story. Listen out for this. Because they might get around to the 100.
Is Melissa a big 100 fan, is she? He'd seen us up. 112 for 3. As here is Higgins on strike then. So Milan on the verge of the 50, 46 from 26. Higgins 19 from 15, 112 for 3. And you're listening to BBC Radio Solent with Kevin James, Adam Blackmore hosting the Friday night show. Myself, Kevin Ham for BBC Radio London, and good evening, Melissa Story.
Hello. We've got Liam Dawson continuing from the pavilion end.
No, he's
back from the pavilion end.
He's naughty, Mr. James, because what I said last night was one competition has to go, but I didn't say which. Owen Morgan said as soon as the 100 was launched, you can't have 2 short-form competitions, and I think we all saw that last night.
I personally like the pretty colours. In fact, I love Middlesex's pink, as this has worked out to deep mid-wicket for just a single. Score moves on to 113.
Is that a dig at Kevin James wearing dark grey and light grey? There's a bit of trim. There's a bit of trim up there, isn't there? There's a bit of red.
there's a line in one of the Shrek films where Donkey says, "That's a nice boulder. I like that boulder." And Kevin James is dressed like a very nice boulder. Dawson in, following the batter, as Milan works it to long on for a single.
For once, Jamo, it has nothing to do with me. All right, I'll probably tease her a little bit, but for once, it's nothing to do with me.
He's made a mistake putting us on at the same time.
Oh, I love it.
He's eating his chilli in the corner of the room now, as Dawson darts one in. This is pulled away uppish, but no real timing on it means it bounces well before the fielder at long on.
He'll be like the fire-breathing dragon in Shrek when he finishes that chilli, won't he?
Well, I'm a bit worried about the listeners because even though they can only hear us, I'm a bit worried they might be able to smell the chili through the radio. It's quite a strong smell originating from the corner. Dawson bowling, bit of width this time, but a good bit of fielding at extra cover. It's a dot ball, just 3 runs off the over so far. 1 ball remaining. 115 for 3. The crowd getting a little bit rowdy. We saw that very original and imaginative chance of Hampshire early on, giving himself some room, pushing that into the covers as Milan gets a single to finish the over. 116 for 3 after 13.
Thank goodness it's only 7,000 here tonight. Can you imagine a full house?
I mean, I've seen some incredibly hostile crowds here before. One's involving my friends before when they came to watch Hampshire versus Kent a few seasons ago, and I think that the bar was visited quite a few times. They were on the front row down there, and I think Ross Whiteley was treated to about 20 girls obsessing over him.
Oh, I see.
Overs. So
oh, it was that kind of rowdy crowd.
that kind of rowdy.
Right.
It was like almost like a hen do.
You should have seen what they were like when Kevin James played here. Honestly.
The queues did they stretch out. If we thought the traffic was bad today, the traffic to see Kevin James in his peak.
Absolutely. Right, are we going to have a little bit of, is it Ross Whiteley? The screen's telling me?
Yes.
It is Ross Whiteley down below us.
Who didn't really bowl for Hampshire last year, but he
That's
was
what I was surprised.
a big part of the Brisbane Heat's bowling plans this year. So clearly the Hampshire coaching and background staff have been watching and gone, you know what we need in a situation like this? Some dibbly dobblers.
I didn't watch the Bash this year, unfortunately, because Stephen Eskenazi was a winner as well, which would have been a great excuse to watch.
Earlier games, a bit too early.
Whiteley's in. He is left arm over and he bowls to Milan, who steps across outside of the off stump. Whiteley tries to push it across him and Milan picks up 2, driving out to deep cover. And he moves 50. 50 from 30 deliveries, 4 4s, 2 6s. One of them, well, again, I didn't quite decide whether it was a leading edge or a top edge. It was coming down at a 45-degree angle. It just seemed to create a scoop for the ball over the top of deep back with square leg, but you take it any way it comes in short form cricket.
And he hasn't really given away a false shot or any kind of risk in his innings. As you were saying, he plays such classical, glorious strokes.
Whiteley bowls to him once more, and that'll be a wide, just about outside of the off stump. What am I seeing that on the replay? I reckon that was pretty tight. Milan again looked to step outside off. He didn't go though, did he? He just kind of shimmied, gave the shape as though he was going to go, and Whiteley pushed it across him. Clearly too far across. Not seen the replay just yet, but wide it was. 119 for 3 in the 14th as Whiteley hits the crease now. He bowls and that slammed back down the ground. It'll be 1 bounce. Oh, now was it even 1 bounce? That's gone all the way for 6. Whoa.
This pitch is not working out for Hampshire at all, and someone bowling with the pace of Ross Whiteley can't really afford to bowl that back of the length, particularly with the field he's got set. You know, he's got a long off now and deep cover. He can't afford to drag it down to the shorter boundary, so conundrum for Hampshire here.
Whiteley in once more, he bowls and stepping across outside of the off stump, attempting an almighty heave into the onside. Milan swing and a miss though as it goes through to the gloves of the keeper. It was a double header at Lords yesterday as well, Sunrisers and South East Stars, and right at the back of the game Sunrisers nearly came back into it as they stumbled across. Actually spin's going quite nicely. They got Joe Gardner on as well, tried to turn it at the last and very nearly did. It was something in the second game as Whiteley is in, bowls. This is driven hard, straight to cover though, and there's no run. Another dot ball, or bowls Whiteley. 2 a wide, 6 and 2 dot balls to follow, but he's still got 2 more to get out of the over. In the second game, Middlesex, they were going to have Maharaj, but his freak injury, as it was described in the test match, has ruled him out of playing for Middlesex this summer. So they had young 19-year-old Fernandez, who they've got tonight, and Luke Holman. They weren't quite a match for Sunil Narayan. It taken a little bit of spin, but the point being, it almost took right to the back end of that first game before we all realised, oh, hold on a minute. Spin's pretty effective here. Pace was going a long way yesterday. As in comes Whiteley, and that's crunched through the covers. Yep, and it's going to be 4 as well. Long off doesn't get around Fuller. Beat Vince at extra cover, and it was gone. Milan's 60.
Milan here just probably making James Vince question that decision at the toss, and actually, yes, the pitch doesn't seem to be slowing up very much, but arguably Hampshire haven't bowled the greatest lines yet so far. The most effective bowlers, arguably in the women's game before this, was Lauren Bell and Lauren Filer. So either you change your name to Lauren and you bowl well on this, or you're a bit taller and you bowl a bit back of a length. And that's what worked well in that first game.
129 for 3. Whiteley's in. He bowls short down the leg side, but Milan steps a long way across outside off, and that one is allowed to go as a dot ball. So there were 13 by my count, 2 at the beginning, a wide, a 6 and a 4. So 13 off the over, and Middlesex are 129 for 3 after 14 overs here on BBC Radio Solent. This joint commentary of BBC Radio London. Melissa.
It was a good contest in that over, really, between Milan, who was very clearly trying to target that shorter boundary, and it was that classic British crowd kind of thing, that every time he swung and missed it, from below us I heard away. It's kind of like when someone drops a pint in a cup and everyone has to, you're legally obliged to go, ooh. It's just the crowd getting involved here, probably recognising that, yes, Hampshire have picked up a few wickets, but they're certainly on the back foot as long as Milan is in, and therefore Hampshire have brought Mason Crane back into the attack from the pavilion end. Flighted delivery, drilled back past him straight, and a lot of work for the fielder to do. Can't get round. Power play, usually you tend to see, you know, once the fielder spread, it may just trickle off, and it's why I never really trust those projected totals at the start of a game. But here, Middlesex are taking this further and further up.
And that's generally the best.
As Crane bowls again, this time cutting out to deep point for just a single, casually run through. Score moves on to 134 for 3.
That's genuinely when you get the best finishes as well. We saw in the Middlesex-Surrey game last night that Surrey got off to a flyer, and well, in the last over they lost 3 wickets. They had so many wickets, they had 8 wickets in hand, I think, in the 16th over still, and then it kind of capitulated as they all come in and just started to swing.
Crane bowling, thick edge, going to beat the short third fielder, racing away to the boundary for a second 4 of the over. Hampshire, this game just running away from them now, and you suddenly get you question that extra seam option which they've had before in their team with Brad Wheel missing today, and they're just a bit short of options. Fuller, we mentioned, with that virus, hasn't quite looked himself, and
now Crane will be bowled out at the end of this one as well, so I'd suggest to Milan, who got out just after seeing off Narayan last night, that he doesn't get out in this over.
Crane in, this ugly hoik down the ground, long on. So just be a single, no real timing at all. 139 for 3.
He was very kind and sat alongside me for a couple of sessions of commentary against Kent a couple of weeks ago, I think it was, and my God, he's pure muscle, Peter Milan. I tell you what, he's a powerful, powerful man.
Crane bowling, pulled front of square by Higgins. Got his whole body behind that one, but can't beat the field. Another single taken. So there was 2 massive, muscly blokes just doing commentary.
No, Kevin James wasn't available that day.
Final ball of this spell from Crane. It's flighted and just worked down the ground with ease by Milan. So much to your joy, Kevin. He didn't get out to the spinner. He survived. That's the end of Mason Crane's spell. He's bowled 4 overs, 2 for 36.
But that's the thing, he'd already got 2 for 36. You know, he picks up Milan in the over, there's pressure.
Certainly saw the second helping with the plate with not many greens on it. Were you aware that there was a salad bowl and
well,
as an option?
That was gone. It was gone. Oh yeah, I did see the salad bowl. Sorry, yeah. The veggies I wanted. I wasn't quite sure what you had the salad with. You had chili con carne, then you had like a vegetarian con carne. What did you have the salad with?
I'm not sure.
Side salad?
I went for vegetables and salad because I'm
you?
in the peak of my fitness. So
I'll have the salad in the interval. I'll skip the pudding.
There's pudding.
I hope so. Here's Wood from the pavilion end. 2 overs, none for 15. He's in now, bowls, and this is driven away out to deep cover, just fine of the fielder. They're thinking about 2, but that's really well fielded, and just a single. It is. Is that Crane out there? Let's have a look. Deep cover.
Looking in completely the wrong direction. Deep cover, I think, is Nathan Ellis.
That's Ellis. Yeah, he was out there a few moments ago. He hasn't turned his back to me just yet. Yeah, you're right. He was out there a few moments ago. Here's Wood Second ball of his third over, left arm over, he bowls, and where has that gone? Straight back to the bowler, and Higgins has gone for 27. And 142 for 4. Middlesex lose their 4th wicket, caught and bowled by Woods in the 16th over. How did that get back to the bowler? Higgins was looking behind him, he was trying to paddle it, trying to tuck it around the corner. Don't know whether it was even the toe end of the bat, and it just looped straight back. Yeah, it must have just been the toe end.
I mean, I don't think there was any different way which Higgins could have got out, because he started his innings facing a hat-trick ball, reverse swept it, he was moving about the crease, trying to paddle, and it's only fitting that he went in the weirdest dismissal possible. Ryan
Higgins, 27 from what, 22 deliveries, 1, 4, 2 sixes. You're dancing away. Who was that?
That was Taylor Swift.
I'm pretty good with modern music now. I'm pretty good.
It was. I've made a request with Robbie, who's been doing some of the music before the game, and said just give me a tiny bit of Taylor Swift. So.
Oh, was that for you? Was that a?
I'd like to think so.
Nice.
Hawky the Hawk didn't wave at me, but I did get Taylor Swift, so my day's improved dramatically.
Right, it is Luke Holman who comes in at 6, again ahead of John Simpson, the number 7, 100 player. John Simpson. That's the other thing about Middlesex I was going to come to. You know, there was a big gulf between Middlesex and Surrey last night because they've got pretty much every box ticked in the 11. But Middlesex did have 600 players on display. With Cullen and Cracknell, how much they played, they got called up, but how much they played, I'm not sure. But nonetheless, 6 players and Peter Milan. As Wood bowls a bouncer first up, Holman's over the top of it, hooking down to deep backward square leg, and he picks up a single. First ball, 143 for 4 Middlesex. And then beyond that, what's that? That's 8, and then you've got Holman, Fernandez, Holden. So, you know, some pretty decent players there.
I mean, what did you make of Surrey's almost tactic to play in a team of entirely all-rounders?
Well, yeah, well, it was the same in the Championship at the Oval when they trounced Middlesex in that one. As Wood bowls to Milan, a step to offside. Goodness me, that's the biggest 6 of the lot now, isn't it? That's right up onto the concourse, and it smashes out towards the, I think it's the steakhouse there, isn't it, that it almost went in. It's just landed in between 2 of them, not quite the New Zealand Fush and Chops bus over there, but just next to the steak one. It bounces back, but straight onto the concourse that, and could have bounced up. It was quite flat, actually, otherwise that bounce could have taken it up and over and out of the grounds, but 6 more, Middlesex 149 for 4, Milan moves to 73.
Well, if he does that again, I'd like him to aim at the sweet stand next, because it's horribly overpriced, so I think they should get punished for it.
Ha! Brilliant. They always are, though, sweet stands. Here's Wood, bowls, and Milan swings into the onside, just short. Well, now, I tell you what, that wasn't far short of mid-on. That was not far short of mid-on at all, who backed away to it, and was there a chance to get underneath that at all? Look, it's easy game from up here, isn't it? But as it bounced in front of him, given that he backed away, it didn't seem as though that was that far off to me. 150 for no wicket, one to come of the 16th.
Ross Whiteley out there, and as you say, it was one of those things in the split second he had to make a decision whether to lose his front teeth or to back and let it on the bounce, and wise decision.
To Holman, who punches out to Whiteley once more, and it's 151 for 4. That is the end of the 16th over. Milan, I should tell you, he does have, well, this is his 12th T20 50 in his 56th game, which isn't bad actually as a conversion rate. It's a good average of just below, or just above 38.5. He does have 1 century as well, a top score of 140, which isn't a bad top score in T20 cricket, is it?
We're speaking about salads and eating healthy. Are you at least enjoying the physical exercise of the Ageas Bowl, that you have to hold your right hand up to block out the sun for the entire first innings?
Yes, exactly.
It really says, you know, you don't work hard enough as a commentator. Let's make things a little bit harder for you.
It is a challenge up here with the sun, isn't it? Over the years.
By the end of this, I'm going to be all loosened up, ready to bowl. So if Middlesex need me, I'm available.
Well, the form they've been in T20 over the years. I heard Kevin and Adam talking about it in the preview, Middlesex's T20 record. They won it here in 2008. What an evening that was.
Nathan Ellis from the pavilion end bowls a slower ball, which can only be chopped down into the wicket by Holman, allows him to sneak through for a quick single, 152 for 4. And
this is a county that have had Owen Morgan through his whole career. Now, they didn't always have him. There would have been years where he didn't play at all in the Blast for Middlesex, but they've had Paul Sterling, they've had Darvin Milan, they've had A.B. de Villiers, Brendan McCullum. There's been a whole plethora of big name stars brought in, but they haven't been able to reverse Middlesex's final day's woes in that they've only ever made it once.
As Ellis scampering in again, this time worked square of the wicket on the onside. Fielder sprinting in from square, keeps it down to a single.
Incredibly close to the stumps as he delivers, isn't he, Ellis?
Yeah, he varies it as he goes along, and you always worry a bit when, obviously sometimes umpires are different sizes. What happens if an umpire's a bit round the waist? He's made you had a few more portions of chili con carne.
Dear old Shep was still going, eh? It would have been like bumper cars.
Ellis is going to wipe him out. He's not going to give you an LBW if you're elbowing the umpire every delivery. Ellis in again, bowling a good Yorker, which is squirted out to deep cover. It's good bowling from Nathan Ellis, who's conceded just the 16 runs so far. It's 2.5 overs.
Or it'd be like the fun house, wouldn't it, when you have to go diving into one particular bit to get through.
Well, I'm quite disappointed because normally up on the hill...
They could do that in 100, couldn't they?
They could do that in 100, but on innovation. Usually up on the hill there is an inflatable obstacle course here for the Blast games.
Yeah.
And I was promised inflatables and I can't see them, so I need to have a word. Ellis bowls, slow ball bounce, this is pulled around behind square for 4.
It's a masterclass, this, isn't it, from Milan? I mean, that was sweet. He wasn't... he's just seeing it big, isn't he? The way that he got that away, fine. Just manufactured it, timed it, placed it. Brilliant cricket.
And actually, he's been racing closer and closer to... I'm not going to say the figures because I'm not going to curse any players or put on any jinxes, but there's plenty of time left in this innings, and the way he's seeing it, can't rule anything out. As Ellis bowls a slower ball, tickled into the onside, running the first one hard and should come back for 2, but settle on just the single as Tom Press there running him from the boundary. He's got a good arm, he's a youthful player. That's the benefit of Hampshire and Middlesex, of course, as well, is when you always pack your team for the 20-year-olds, you can force them to run boundary to boundary.
They're all useful players when you get to our age. Well, my age. I mean, ours is in Kevin James's and ours, but not yours.
You saying our age, that's like... Fancy a night on the town tonight then? Ellis bowling, slower ball, giving himself room, stepping into the onside and just manages to dab the bat down on the ball. Gets a single. Me in the women's game, me and Kevin James were saying after a women's game, I to drop me off at 1 AM coming back from Aston in a bar outside.
Oh, I see. Oh, nice.
Outside Portsmouth. And I gave him an invite to come in.
Why not?
With friends.
JMO?
Yeah, he said no.
Oh.
Disappointed. Boring, isn't it? End of the over, score 160 for 4, Middlesex with 3 overs remaining.
Who's this song?
I don't know actually.
Oh.
Right, okay. I'm not a big, club bangers kind of person. I'm more of a indie bands plus Taylor Swift.
Mellow Magic.
That's my remit.
Is James Fuller back into the attack from the Hilton end. He's had 2 overs. They've gone for 30. Great pace from Fuller, but of course when it's hit, it stays hit, doesn't it? Especially if it's Peter Milan at the moment, but it's Holman on strike first. He has 5, Milan has 80, Middlesex 160 for 4. There are 3 overs remaining of this Middlesex innings. Where will it go from here? They've got John Simpson still to come as well, so I think Holman's going to have to start teeing off a little bit at one end. In comes Fuller, and this is dabs for a single, straight to backward point throw to the wicket-keeper's end, and it misses. It goes all the way out to the other side, the big boundary, and deep, well, it was deep mid-wicket, will now be deep cover, but they were running that one so hard there was never going to be a chance to turn to think about 2, but well, that's the thing. Actually, he's done a perfect job there, Holman, because he's just dropped the single, so it's one of those situations. It's 1, 4 or 6 at this point, isn't it, when you've got a guy on 80 at the other end.
I tried to look through Kevin James' binoculars there to see who the fielder was, and turns out I don't know how to use binoculars because I've looked through both ends and I can't see a thing.
I have always struggled with binoculars, I've got to be honest.
Did just have to check the caps.
They just seem so fiddly. Oh, was it the caps? The caps are still on. Fuller is midway through his run-up, and he bowls to Milan, who goes up in the air, hasn't got hold of it, should go at extra cover, and does go at extra cover. Amazing innings from Milan, 80 from 45 deliveries. It really has given Middlesex a great chance here tonight. With the South Africans gone, Middlesex's overseas is out, and they are 161 for 5 in the 18th.
Disappointing to fall with so few overs left to go, but it has been a remarkable innings from Milan. As you say, he's carried this Middlesex innings so far, and we mentioned anything around that 160 plus is going to be an interesting score. It's going to be a challenge for Hampshire, and a challenge for a team who are coming back from 74 all out in their first game. You know, it was a bold move from James Vince to say, you know, let's do a chase. Maybe it's to do something completely different, let's mix it up. But Middlesex have demonstrated, and Milan has demonstrated, that this is a good pitch to bat on. But I also don't think Hampshire have bowled the best they could have, and really have played into a lot of Milan's strengths. He's conducted himself wonderfully out there in the middle and entertained this Hampshire crowd. Although I'm not sure that I'm entertained by whatever side, but I think some of the more passionate fans are probably not as impressed.
Worked out, if I stand perfectly still, I can be your shade, can't I? I don't know what that says. Yeah, exactly. I don't know what that says about the second plate that I've just had, but
the issue is now.
There you go. If I stand perfectly still,
coming around your head, you look like that baby in the Teletubbies.
Oh no!
Which was in the sun.
Oh no! What do they do now? I do remember that. I can't remember what they do now though. Simpson's the new batter. Fuller's in, bowls, and this is pushed back by the left-hander. This is a long way down for someone of the talent of John Simpson. And again, I just wonder, is it worth a switch up somewhere in the order, whether it goes up to 3 or what do with Simpson? Just give him a chance. He's got such power. He's the biggest hitter in the lineup.
To speak up the 100, he did smack Stephen Finn.
He did. I mentioned that last night. Yeah.
Over that set.
Yeah, I was
I'll get a slap on the wrist if I say over.
I was listening on the radio that night, and yeah, he did give his old mate some tappers. Here's Fuller, who bowls short, wide, outside the off stump. That's got to be close to a no ball. It's called a no ball. Bouncer outside of the off stump. So not a free hit, but it's a no ball on height. So that will push Middlesex to 163 for 5. Still 2 to come. 3 to come, indeed. At the 18th.
Seems to be working for the seamers here. And in terms of this Middlesex bowling lineup, which of the bowlers do you think are going to benefit or work well on this pitch?
Fuller bowls, and this is dragged out to deep backward point for 2. Deep backward square leg, sorry, for 2. And back they come comfortably. Simpson off the mark. Third ball, 165 for 5. What, 2 to come of the over. Well, Tom Helm's just an incredibly good bowler. He picked up 3 in the final over last night. As good a death bowler as there is in T20 cricket. He's an outstanding talent, and Middlesex really need him to have a very big season and lead the attack. Blake Cullen. As Fuller's in. Bowls, and Simpson picks up to deep backward square leg and depart. Oh, yes he does, he goes. I thought there was going to be a fumble, I thought there was going to be a step back onto the rope, but there wasn't. Simpson's gone for 2, Middlesex are 165 for 6, and this is going to test the depth of Middlesex's batting lineup now. There's 1 to go at the 18th, there's only 13 balls left in the innings. Holman's still there, Fernandez, Helm, well, they've got batting, but it's going to test just how far down they go. 165 for 5 it is. Pressed with the catch, full of the wicket. Simpson's gone for 2.
Yeah, Tom Prest, reliable outfielder for Hampshire. He's quite young still, but obviously Hampshire have made the last 2 finals days, and I seem to remember him patrolling the Holly stand boundary. So if you can withstand that, you can withstand any kind of pressure of a high catch.
Fuller's last ball. So Martin Anderson comes in now, and this is kind of the final pairing, recognised pairing. It's me off, isn't it? What are you signalling JMO for? Isn't it me to go?
I'm not sure.
It's me.
He's been signalling things at me.
Yeah, it's me. Well, maybe he wants to take your mic, and then you're coming on here. He's got his position there, JMO. I don't know. You ask him, and I'll do this ball, because it's me to come off, I think, and you to finish the innings with Kevin. As here is Fuller. Last ball of the 18th, last ball of his 3rd. He's right arm over, he bowls to Anderson, who looks to drive outside of the off stump, beats him, and through to the keeper it goes. 165 for 6. Holman has 6. Anderson has yet to get off the mark from 1 delivery. John Simpson falling in the over for 2, caught by Preston deep backward square leg, taking on the biggest boundary with a shot that he's pretty good at. It was over a deep backward square leg that he had 6 to beat Somerset in the championship winning year. Quite a shot that was. You're listening to BBC Radio Solent, Adam Blackmore with the Friday night show. Kevin James leading the commentary today, and myself, Kevin Hand from BBC Radio London. From me, a few words from Kevin James, and it'll be Melissa's story.
Are you off already? Just got here.
Dodging you.
Anyway, that's Kevin Hand. That's why you don't work at Radio Solent anymore. You couldn't wait to get out the door. It's a beautiful summer's evening, and I think Hampshire dragged this back a little bit, Melissa.
They have. I think at one stage it really looked like Middlesex were racing towards a 180-190 title. As Ellis is bowling, it's full, and a big puff of dust comes out from the pitch as Holman drives, finds extra cover, single taken, 166 for 6.
I've never known a bloke sort of, get here so tight to a game and then want to get off as quickly as
I'm
possible.
not sure whether we need to send a warning downstairs quickly and get a carrier pigeon to the floor below and say, watch out, he's coming back for thirds. We'll be the first to hear if there's any desserts though, but I do have a feeling he's going to be a bit disappointed.
Yeah, I don't think that. I mean, we've had food twice today. I mean, we've been very lucky, haven't we?
It's Nathan Ellis lifting his arms up in the air mid-action. Reverse paddle attempted, almost bowled Anderson there. Definitely close to the stumps, and with all pace taken off the ball, it would have taken a lot to beat the fielder at short third. The crowd just migrating around to follow the sun. It's a packed out lower stand to our left. Lots of attention being paid to the various food trucks around, which I was speaking to someone. They are award-winning food trucks. Apparently the best cricket food in the country, so who needs the county championship title when you've got that award, eh? Nathan Ellis bowling, slap back at him, almost caught and bowled. He did well to get any sort of hand on that one, and actually had a second chance as it bounced back off his hands. Couldn't quite get there. It's just a single taken though, so good result anyway for Hampshire. 167 for 6 score. Hopefully by the second innings the sun may have just dropped below a certain level. I must say my arm is getting very tired now. As Ellis charging in over the wicket, slower ball, it's high in the air. Can Ben McDermott get round with the gloves on? He takes the catch. Holman goes for 7. Slower ball from Ellis does the trick, and this really has been a good comeback for Hampshire. These wickets in the middle order falling consistently. Holman goes for 7. Old Ellis caught McDermott, the Australian combination working together.
Mel, when you have the same overseas players back, and they did a great job last year for Hampshire, getting them through all the way to lifting the trophy. You kind of hope that you get what you had the year before, and of course it doesn't always work. But I think what's really good is that the changes of pace from Nathan Ellis are as good as we remember. But that was a fantastic slower ball, wasn't it? Completely foxed it straight up in the air, and it's just how we remember Nathan Ellis of last year.
I still remember as well after finals day last year when we were kind of waiting around and trying to get interviews with the players, but also soaking up the atmosphere and watching the Hampshire players with their fans. Nathan Ellis came over and he had a word, and he kind of was like to me, and he was like, hey, how are you? I was like, you just won the T20 finals day, you don't need to ask me how I am. But he's a lovely guy, so of course he did. He's in again. Another slower ball and just deceives Fernandez there. They look at each other, the two batters out there in the middle, Fernandez and Anderson, as if to say, should we run on that one? I think a wise decision in the end taken, as it's a dot ball, 167 for 7. And still, in a bit more hindsight now, decision to win the toss and bowl, do you think Captain James Vince will be happy with these last 5 overs?
For me, this is still pretty much par, and one stage, Middlesex did look as though they were going to get a lot more, but it's still not a bad total, is it?
Ellis' final ball of the 19th over beats the bat of Fernandez, who is charging down the wicket, looking for an expansive drive, misses out, and a brilliant spell from Nathan Ellis. 4 overs, 2 for 24. Just a crucial signing for Hampshire, massive part of their victory last year. And of course this is Champions Day, so earlier during the Vipers Storm game we saw both the Charlotte Edwards Cup and the T20 Finals Day trophy on the side, which has gone. I think maybe after a certain number of pints were brought it was time to remove it, or up the security. It's probably a bit easier to remove it.
Assuming it's the real one, of course.
Well, do you think there's enough budget in English cricket for a decoy trophy? I don't think so.
So here is over number 20 to be bowled by the evergreen Chris Wood, who has 3 overs, 1 for 25. He's Hampshire's highest wicket taker in the T20 competition. And here he is then, bowling to Martin Anderson, full outside the off stump. Anderson drives, there is deep extra cover, so it'll only be a single. No, he's going to take 2. He's going for 2. He hesitated, but he had to go for 2. It's such a big boundary out there. Nathan Ellis has such a long way to throw. And Anderson, in the end, it was comfortable.
Yeah, it wasn't the best of throws in from Nathan Ellis either. This is a new one. I know there's a lot of music played in T20, but they're playing it between each deliveries now.
Is it more than ever, do you think?
I'm not sure, but I don't really recognise any of these songs. Am I too old now? I don't know the top 10 charts.
It's Chris Wood to Anderson again on bowls, and it's full outside off stump again. And Anderson has to reach for that one, and the ball works its way out to Wood. They're going to take two here as well. The throw comes into the bowl. His head, he's out, surely, yes. Well, that was 2 runs that were really never on, and Fuller came in from deep mid off, and the throw only had to be half accurate for Chris Wood to gather it in and knock the stumps out. And Anderson, well, that'll be Fernandez that goes there, Nathan Fernandez, and he goes for no score.
It was all about the throw in there from James Fuller and making sure the bounce was good for Chris Wood to take the bails off. I mean, it's the kind of risk in this final over you're willing to take. You're saying, well, if the bowler fumbles it, if the fielder fumbles it, we've got to. So you almost have to go for it at this stage. Whether there's going to be much difference in the batting abilities between Fernandez and Helm, I'm not too sure, but Anderson there. I mean, Anderson, who I'm pretty sure dislocated a finger yesterday in the game versus Surrey as well. So clearly the Middlesex doctors have worked some magic and it's enabled him to go out to bat now.
It's Helm then. He was at the non-strikers end, I think. Yes, he is. So that's hit by Anderson down to middle. They're going to take 2 there, surely. I mean, that'd be absolutely ridiculous. And they settle for 1 on that occasion, and that will bring Helm on strike. And Middlesex are 178 for 8 with 4 balls left, 3 balls left. Scoreboard was just a little bit behind there. Tom Helm is then just having a chat with Anderson, probably just getting the calling between the wickets right, if they're going to go no matter what, if it hits the bat. They've got 2 wickets in hand with 3 balls left, so it's just go for it, really. Here's Wood. Comes in, left arm over and bowls, and Helm swings, misses outside the off stump. It's full, they are running. And throw at the stumps, and he's run out. Oh, McDermott underarmed the ball back to bowler Chris Wood, or underarmed the ball to the stumps at his end, and that's the 9th Middlesex wicket down at 171.
You must say it's a good thing that there's no time limits on this final over, because similar to the Surrey Middlesex game yesterday where Tom Helm took 3 wickets, or a few wickets in his final over at least, this has taken quite a while to bowl this final 6. I mean, it's desperation from Middlesex. They're recognising perhaps that they are a bit under par at this stage. Maybe they should have been finishing on that around 180, so they're just desperately trying to scramble some runs, and with 2 balls left in this innings now, they're down to their final batter, Blake Cullen.
21 years of age, Blake Cullen.
Would you like, very quickly, some depressing Surrey news?
Oh no, go on. It's always depressing, no matter what it is.
223 for 5 against Kent, with Abbott scoring 110.
Really? You know, he does give it a whack. That's full outside the off stump, and that's going to be 6 over extra cover, or is it? Caught right on the boundary, and it's knocked back, and he's caught on the deep square cover boundary. A little bit unlucky, because that's the biggest boundary here. And he was right on the rope. Is that Tom Prest?
Tom Prest has been down there in that corner for most of the game, and it's the kind of thing, you know, it's just second nature to these players now, just to parry the ball back inside the boundary rope. Looking at this replay on the live stream, it's a brilliant final over from Wood, as Tom Prest took the catch, flicked it up. His teammate was there in case he needed him, but in the end Nathan Ellis was just there to give him a high five, and suddenly that final over from Wood, spectacular. He had a tactic in mind, you know, he was bowling wide, he was making the Middlesex batters reach for it, and I think that's something which the Hampshire bowlers really lacked in the first 10 overs. They've come back stronger, they have done a brilliant job, considering the innings by Milan, to you know, the second 10 overs really proved that you've got to take pace off and you've got to bowl to one side of the pitch. You've got to keep the ball away from this shorter boundary, because it doesn't feel that much shorter, but it certainly is.
So there was 1 ball to go for the Middlesex innings, who close on 171 all out. Chris Wood finishing with 2 for 29 from 3.5 overs, but really it's a story of what might have been for Middlesex. They were certainly in a good position at one stage, weren't they?
They lost in the last 4 overs 26 wickets for 20 runs. I mean, that is one hell of a collapse.
In the last 4. Wow. Right, okay, we're going to take a bit of a break, and we'll be with you at the start of the Hampshire reply. And when they do reply, and I think it's about 10 minutes or so between innings, probably 15, no more. It's certainly not too long. Hampshire, when we come back, we'll need 172 to win the game. Tom Helm is about to get us underway. It'll be Ben McDermott to face the first delivery. Here we go then, Tom Helm, right arm seam. He's got 2 slips in, runs away from us in the evening sunshine here at the Ageas Bowl, and that bounces and falls just short of deep cover. Wicked bounce there from Tom Helm. Ben McDermott, one of the 2 Aussies in the Hampshire side. Hasn't played international cricket now since April 22. But he's a very powerful player once he gets going. Obviously one of many Hampshire players that didn't get going the other night at Taunton. Will he get going tonight? Here's Helm. And sort of languishes in and bowls, and that's down the leg side. He gets wrapped on the thigh pad. It goes out to short, fine leg, and there is no run. So 2 balls gone. Middlesex were at one stage on for a huge total, or certainly more than 171. Peter Milan with 80 from just 45 deliveries. Ryan Higgins 27 from 22. And Stephen Eskenazi opening up with 31 off 18. Middlesex were going great guns at one stage and just fell away horribly towards the end of their innings. Here's Helm bowls, and McDermott gets a length ball. They'll run a quick one, or hit Vises Editon, and there's a throw at the bowler's end. And he misses. And he's home. That's Max Holden there. Vince just started to go and stopped momentarily. That always looked a bit tight. I'm just wondering if Holden's thrown to the right end. Anyway, 2 batters have just acknowledged each other there. And 1 without loss, Hampshire. 3 balls gone. Tom Helm, who's taken 89 wickets in this competition. This is 74th match tonight. An economy rate of a fraction under 9 and over. Both some important overs as well, so it's not too bad. One of those slips has come out and has reinforced the cover side. That's Joe Cracknell, who's in at short extra cover. Here comes Helm, runs away from us again, and that's a good length and straight to Vince, and he can't really do much about that. He just pushes that out quietly on the offside for Hampshire. In the bowling department, wickets shared around 2 for 29 from 3.5. Chris Wood, he's now up to 181 wickets in T20s, Hampshire's highest wicket taker. 2 for 24 from 4, Nathan Ellis. 2 for 35 from 3, James Fuller, returning to the side tonight. Here's Helm again and bowls, and that's on the line of leg stump, and Vince just quietly works that up to mid-on, where Nathan Fernandez fields, and they'll come through for a quick single. Hampshire move on to 2, and the other wicket taker, Mason Crane, with 4 overs, 2 for 36, and the ball that he bowled Stephen Eskenazi with, beautiful googly through the gate. Eskenazi, as I said earlier, made 31. So 2 without loss. We've got 1 ball left of the first over, and it's McDermott back on strike.
Helm comes in and bowls. McDermott gets another length ball, which he can't do much about, and that's worked to short extra cover, and that's the first over done of the Hampshire reply. They are 2 without loss. Ben McDermott and James Vince both strike the same at 134 per 100 balls. It's pretty decent. 3,300 runs for McDermott, playing his 136th T20. 17 of those have been internationals. And Vince playing his 328th match tonight. And he has over 8,700. So Vince it will to face the first ball of the second over. It's going to be Blake Cullen to bowl his right arm pacers from the pavilion end. And he's got a slip in. Yes, he comes in and bowls right arm over. Vince drives out towards extra cover, and there is no run. The sun is just peering over the horizon away to our right. It won't be long before it starts to disappear. Kevin Hand is back with us. Thought you'd gone back to London.
I left my wallet in the car. I tell you what they say about you Solent folk, it's not true. That car that was sat on the passenger seat, yeah, there's the car, the wallet still there.
Well, there's nobody else from Solent other than us up here. There's Cullen again, and Vince drives up to mid-on. It's fairly deep, so they'll jog through for a single, 3 without loss.
I was telling Melissa about Cullen's spell against Vince at Radlett a couple of years back. We were sat side on, weren't we, at mid-wicket watching him, and it was seriously pacey, wasn't it? Yeah. 2 years ago now, he had a back injury last year, yeah. And we were sitting there thinking, oh, this guy's fast.
Yeah, hits the deck, doesn't he?
Interesting to see how he goes tonight. Melissa was asking me about that. Who'll mix up the pace best for Middlesex, and Helm's probably the man. Great first over from him. Brilliant death bowler, brilliant at the top, Helm.
Bowled well last night, didn't he?
He did, took 3 in the final over.
Yeah. Here's Cullen bowls and hits the deck again to McDermott, who again could do nothing more than play it back to the bowler. Yes, he it was Cullen can, when he gets it right, be very impressive.
Yeah. Well, he got in the hundreds a couple of seasons back. Yeah, back injuries holding him up last year. It was Mike Atherson's one to watch a couple of seasons ago. Well, indeed last season, but that back injury, unfortunately.
Yeah. That's just reminded me, actually. Tell me about that second 11 warm-up game against Sussex.
Well, it wasn't really Middlesex's T20 side that played that one.
Of course not. Cullen bowls. Oh, there's a little flick over his shoulder, and that's going for 4. 1 bounce down to fine leg. Just walked across his stumps. Ben McDermott. Little scoop shot.
Record score. Well, it was Richard Johnson said he really wanted to rest the T20 players, so he gave everybody else that wasn't going to play a chance in that one.
Oh, okay. Doesn't look as though they're getting too many chances moving forward then after that.
No.
Here comes Cullen from the pavilion end. Bowls. McDermott works that up to mid-on. Again, the field is quite deep, so it's an easy single. He moves on to 6, and the Hawks on to 8.
Well, the side kind of picks itself this year for Middlesex for the Blast. They've only got 1 overseas. They haven't got an overseas bowler. They were going to have Maharaj, so I guess you throw them all into that game and say, well, all right, if you're going to break into this first 11, because we know what it is, then you're going to have to do something, so here's your chance. So in that sense, it was a bit of an audition, really, for them. That's not the way it's been phrased to me at all, but that would be my reading of it, that this 11 very nearly picked itself.
Okay. Cullen into Vince. Vince drives through extra cover. Hasn't got enough power because there is a fielder in cover area and he can't get there. Well, it wasn't out of the middle of the bat, but it was close enough to take it over the rope. 4 runs sends that over.
Yeah, a good comeback from Hampshire in the second over. 10 off it, and a bit more like it in the power play. 12 off the first 2. Cullen to continue with another. Helm to continue with another over down below. Eskenazi comes to have a chat with him. The wide-rimmed hat on. So a couple of those now. Higgins had one last night. Has he got one this evening? Don't think he has. But Eskenazi's gone with a wide-rimmed hat this evening. I guess the sun playing havoc with the players down there as it did, or it does with us up here. Not so much for Middlesex in this innings, although I wonder what it's like out at deep cover for Peter Milan if one goes in the air. There wasn't a problem for any of the Hampshire catchers at all, as here's a full delivery from Helm, driven to mid-on and a single's taken. McDermott moves to 7. Going back to what we were saying, the only one really, Tilan Walalawita I think is a pretty impressive young bowler, but they've given Nathan Fernandez a go in these first 2 games.
I was going to say, he's got the nod ahead of Walalawita then.
Yeah, and it was going to be Maharaj. Richard Johnson said he likes the look of Fernandez, and he certainly wanted to have a look at him at some point, but he's put him in for the first 2. Helm to Vince. Bowls, and Vince works nicely. That's lovely timing off his legs, but there is a sweeper set back, so just a single to deep backward square leg. 100. 14 without loss. 158 more. But without him,
80 off 45.
yeah,
4 sixes in that as well.
it's a bit of a one-man show, that innings. Here's Helm. Bowls a low full
Oh.
toss. Oh. Slashed almost back down the ground. The way that bat face came down on it, straight back past the bowler for 4 runs. McDermott moves to 11. Hampshire Hawks are 18 without loss.
Yeah, he's strong when he gets it right, Ben McDermott. It's interesting, when he played here last year, he was very much on the cusp of sort of, you know, Australian white ball cricket. You just get the feeling now he's back here, he might just have dropped down the pecking order a fraction. It's amazing what happens in 1 year, how things can change.
Just the way he came down on that one is extraordinary, isn't it? Sweetly struck.
Just seen there's some guy that's throwing a tennis ball on the field at deep mid wicket, and then an official goes and gets it and does it again.
Oh dear. Here's Helm in, bowls short and just in front of the short third, which is Fernandez rolling to his right. It was well in front of him, to be fair, and well wide of him. So 4 more. 22 without loss. McDermott moves to 15 from 10. 2 to come of the third, and what have we had off it so far? 10, so Helm needs to get out of this over. Yeah, I've just seen whoever the fielder is out there, it's Cracknell. He's just thrown it back, but he hasn't thrown it back to whoever it is this time.
Best thing to do.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, McDermott did well there because he struggled
Oh
to
look,
keep
this
it
fella
down.
jumped over the rope to go and get it, jumped over the advertising board to go and get it.
Not allowed to do that.
No. Where are the stewards? Here's Helm, bowls and bowls past the edge of
good comeback.
McDermott's attempted drive. He's going to be lucky not if he doesn't get, well, I don't think the steward saw him. Yeah, silly boy. I think Joe Cracknell might be getting a little bit from them as well. Here's Helm, one to come of the second, one to come of his second, I should say.
Did you see? Oh yeah, there they are. Some guys sort of dressed. Oh, I'm not sure if it's them, but there's some guys dressed in all white earlier. I know it's all white, it's cricket gear, but they were dressed a little differently. I'm not sure if it's them. I'm not sure it is them. They were like mummies earlier. I'm sure I saw them somewhere. I can't find. I don't think it is those guys.
Maybe they just got in a mess with the toilet roll. No, these ones are definitely in all white, aren't they? As his cricket whites. As his Helm in, bowls. That's driven hard. Goodness me, that is gorgeous through the covers from McDermott. He moves to 19, 26 without loss. Full wide, but given the treatment by the right-hander. Helm second over, finishes with 14 off it. Number 16 off 2 for him.
Wow, that's McDermott. I mean, it was in the slot, let's be honest, it was a half volley, but the way he put it away, the way it went, whew, you won't want to be in the way of that. Well, he's very, very strong indeed.
But we got excited about some of Milan's shots, didn't we? But that was so dismissive, so destructive.
So 26 without loss, Hampshire. I think they were about 5 down, 6 down in Taunton a couple of nights ago by they need another 146 here, so still a long way to go, as we've been saying. Certainly Middlesex will feel that 171 is below par for the way they batted for the majority of their first innings. Here's Cullen, just comes back a bit of Vince, but he managed to find an angle on the onside and comes through for a single and moves on to 8. And it's 27 without loss. Would you put down that sort of that end of innings collapse, because 6 wickets for 10 runs?
Well, I did say to you a fair while out, didn't I, that Helm, Fernandez, Cullen, there's not many big hitters down there at the bottom for Middlesex, so if you get deep into that innings, it's a real test of them, and more often than not you'd fancy they haven't got those kind of lower order batsmen that are going to come in and really clout it about.
Here's Cullen, bowls to McDermott. McDermott drives and half stopped by Cullen on his follow through. Want to look at those fingers. Yeah, I mean, that's the difference as well, isn't it, really? That is fine when you're top 5 or 6.
firing
along nicely. But if you are asking your lower,
well, Melissa
5-6.
Yeah, Melissa was asking about all the Surrey all-rounders, and they did that to Middlesex in the Championship. You know, they played 5 seamers and they still had a couple of spinners to spare. There's so many all-rounders in the side. That was what I was going to ask you earlier. Are you boys going to stop Surrey or what? Is it going to be back-to-back titles for them?
In the Championship?
Yeah.
It'll be a very, very good side that beats Surrey in the Championship.
Well, it's going to be a very good side that beats them in the Blast. Abbott's got a century tonight, hasn't he?
Yeah, well, you say that, but I mean, they didn't win it last year, and they were a pretty decent side. As Cullen works, or McDermott works Cullen up to mid-on for a single, 28 with that loss. We lost to Surrey twice last year. They outplayed us at their place big time. We lost here as well, yet we still won it. I mean, it doesn't necessarily. I don't always think the best T20 side wins the competition.
No,
I'm
exactly.
not saying we weren't the best T20 side. I'm not saying that at all. But if you just go on matches between us and Surrey, you would say Surrey were the better side than us last year.
Yeah.
But you have to peak at the right time, don't you, in this competition? As McDermott works that wide of mid-wicket, just although it's half stopped.
Well, they failed to chase 4 off the final over of their quarter-final against Yorkshire, didn't they, Surrey? That was how they went out. It was 4 final
what's
over.
his name? The seamer. The seamer for Yorkshire that bowled a brilliant last over.
Fisher comes to mind, but I don't think
it wasn't
him.
It was the other guy. I think it was named. Somebody will mention it to me. Yeah, I watched it on I watched it online. It was brilliant. Very, very exciting last over. Yeah, absolutely. It went away, didn't it?
They had it won, didn't they? They were there off to finals day, and they've only won it once. 2003, the only time Surrey have ever won it.
Here comes Cullen again. That's pulled away by McDermott. And now there should be a couple. There is a deep mid-wicket, but it's quite wide. Vince will have to hurry here as it goes up towards the bowler. The throw's horrible.
They've twice nearly run into each other, once on the way down and once on the way back. Middlesex did that yesterday and got themselves in a muddle. Lost Eskenazi in the opening over. That was a real blow. As soon as that went, you kind of felt it's going that fashion as well, run out.
Yeah.
That's the first nail in the coffin.
31 with that loss, the Hawks, 141 needed. We're coming towards the end of the 4th over here. Cullen coming towards the end of his 2nd over. He's conceded 15 so far. Field's changing. The fine leg is coming up on the 30-yard circle. That's Martin Anderson. As Cullen comes in, runs towards us, and McDermott works that away, square on the leg side, where again one of those 2 deep fielders is, and that's Peter Milan out there. Played very nicely for his innings of 80 today. We've mentioned that several times. Will that be enough to win his side this game here, as the sun starts to disappear over the horizon to the west, away to our right. The ground now in shadows, but we can just see the sun peering over the horizon for now. It's always a beautiful scene here when there's not a cloud in the sky and that sun is low. It always creates quite a special scene.
I need a t-shirt, so are you.
Yeah,
Polo
it's
top.
lovely, isn't it? You can feel the temperature just dropping now, can't you?
Yeah, it did. Martin Anderson, he was out last ball of the innings, out to deep backward point, driving in the air. Very nearly made it, didn't he, for 6, as you said on commentary.
Yeah.
He's going to be the player, I think. If Middlesex do anything in the Blast, he's going to be that kind of wild card position for them, Anderson. He's right arm over the wicket from the hotel end. It's heaved to deep mid-wicket, mostly along the floor, and Cracknell Fields a single taken. And Vince wants to strike on 9. McDermott moves to 24, 33 without loss. Hampshire, 139 to win. Decent start. I wonder if they just try and really go after somebody in this power play as Vince nudges a single through square leg. He moves to 10. Thinking about 2, it's not there.
No. It looks on, doesn't it, until you get to the end of your first run, and then you actually realise how quickly the fielder's coming in, and what looks like to be a tight 2, suddenly in a flash, doesn't it, in a fraction of a second, it never looks on.
Yeah.
It's amazing. You have to be very careful with your running.
Anderson's midway through his run-up. Bowls and right into the block hole, following McDermott, who was backing away outside of leg stump. This is a good start from Anderson, an important start for him. He is a player with immense talent, and one that Middlesex feel could be a real star over the years for them. And indeed, Stuart Law said as a batter he feels that he can go all the way, but he's not reaching that, he's not realising that potential at the moment with bat or ball. As he comes in now, bowls, and this one's hit back down the ground. Duck for cover on that one, straight back past the umpire and straight to mid-on. 4 more. Hampshire Hawks moved to 39 without loss, and Vince is on to 14, and Hampshire could well have the time of their lives tonight.
Wow, wouldn't want to be in the way of that one either. It's interesting, he's 26 years old, Martin Anderson. This is only his 25th T20.
Yeah. Well, let's finish this over from him, see where it goes. He's under pressure now. He goes onto the legs and he goes for 4. Leg stump half volley, put away by Vince. And going for the block hole delivery, but going too straight with it, down the leg side. And Vince helping it on its way, just had to get anything on that really, didn't he? And it was 4 more, 43 without loss. So what had been a good over, 1 ball to come of it, and it's gone for 11 now.
Yeah, I'm not sure he was trying to do there, Anderson. He was trying to get it full. The line was just too straight, far too straight for that field.
Yeah. And he comes, and well, mid-off and mid-on are up, so you're fancying this as a length ball, aren't you? As it goes leg side again, pace off, and it is clipped off the legs just for a single, and that is the end of the over. 12 off it, and Hampshire 44 without loss. McDermott 25 and 19 for Vince, who keeps the strike with that single. So what can I say about Anderson? Well, he's had a couple of serious back injuries early in his career. He was one of those that came all the way through the youth ranks, and everybody always heard the name Martin Anderson, Martin Anderson, Martin Anderson. He was just picking up wickets all the way through, very fast through the youth ranks, 80 miles an hour at that age. He's still about 80 miles an hour now, and that's probably, those back injuries wouldn't have helped. But he's a cracking all-rounder, and he's batted at 5 for Middlesex over the years, so he's a solid all-rounder, and whether he's better with the bat or better with the ball, it's really hard to tell at the moment. It feels as though he needs one of those to start to excel so that he can kick on, and that boosts your confidence if one of them's going well. Neil Dexter was a great example of that. He was a decent little lower order batsman, dibbly-dobbly bowler's harsh, but that is what he was. But he was a useful bowler. He took on the captaincy and he stopped bowling, and all of a sudden it heaped loads of pressure on his batting. I said to him when he became captain, whatever you do, don't underbowl yourself, because you're going to... That was my thinking, and that's exactly what happened. Completely underbowled himself. Then as soon as you dry up on a few runs, all of a sudden. We'll have to wait and see with Anderson, but certainly a player that Middlesex know he's a talent. 44 without loss after 5 here.
Yeah, and amazingly enough, after 5 overs, Middlesex had 44, but they'd lost 1 wicket at this stage. So things fairly even though Hampshire have got away to a decent start here. Need another 128. Ryan Higgins on, with the keeper standing up. A little bit slower, that one, as Vince works that away behind square on the leg side. McDermott was ready for the call, but Vince was never going to get home there as the ball comes in from Peter Milan. 2
things about the power play. I mean, look, they're ahead, so, because they haven't lost a wicket yet, but when you come out of a power play and you haven't lost a wicket, you think, oh, how many did you get? So they don't want to leave too many runs out there in this position, but equally, they're in a good position, so why gamble?
Well, the run rate is 8.7 and they need 8.6 from here, so they're pretty much going the way they should be, as that's turned away on the onside for 1 more.
Wickets in hand. Wickets in hand, and they win it, don't they? Yeah. Oh, it's a very, very easy game from up here, but if they're none down after 20 overs, they've won. So it's that risk reward, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, we know, and we've seen enough, and people listening and watching this will know that things can change in an instant. T20, as Higgins comes in again, and that's turned away again on the leg side. Now there's a bit more work for Peter Milan to do here. They may take him on. They hope they do. Comfortable too, this one. Oh. Even though the ball cannons into the stumps, direct hit. Good piece of fielding.
Well, you want to be ahead when you're chasing, don't you? And that's the thing. That's why I wonder in this over, do they want to just try and give it a real boost from somewhere? But Higgins will be a tough man to hit. He's a very good all-rounder with bat and ball.
He'll mix it up.
Yeah. But yeah, you want to be ahead in the chase, because exactly that. A couple of quick wickets, and all of a sudden that pressure gauge absolutely rockets.
Yeah, we saw that earlier this afternoon when the Vipers were chasing a relatively low Western Storm total, and they lost 2 wickets, but by then they were so far ahead of the rate, it didn't even seem that. Well, you didn't even notice 2 wickets down, but you're right, 2 wickets here you would. 48 without loss. Here's Higgins, bowls to Vince, and Vince whips that away again, and that man Milan is in the game once more at deep square leg. And they jog through for a single this time, and Hampshire move on to 49 without loss with 2 balls left of the power play.
It's a good doubleheader at Lord's last night. Yesterday, Sunrisers against South East Stars, first game.
Yeah, they were looking forward to that. I know I spoke to a couple of the South East Stars players. They were looking forward to that doubleheader. Here comes Higgins again, and McDermott gives himself some room and drives through the offside, and that is 4 in the gap wide of mid-off.
Beautiful shot. 50 up for the Hawks, and yeah, there was a nice gap there, wasn't there? And he found it beautifully.
He did. Yeah. So the Sunrisers. I mean, I know you've been doing 1 or 2 captures for them, haven't you?
Loads, yeah. Yeah, really enjoy covering the Sunrisers games.
Big win against the Vipers, first game of the Rachel Hayhoe. That was a shock as that's pushed up towards mid-on. And that's the end of the over and the end of the power play. Higgins' over went for 9 and the Hawks are 53 without loss after 6.
It's funny because they're I need to go, don't I? It's Melissa, isn't it? After 6. What I say on the Sunrisers, they're so competitive. They're always in the game. There's always, you think, oh, they got a chance, and then they lose it because they do have a bad record, don't they? But somehow they seem to keep coming. They seem to keep competing, and there's actually quite a lot of charm about it. And I don't mean that in a patronising way. The fact that they keep turning up, keep coming so close, they're going to turn that corner, and then winning becomes a habit.
Yeah. Well, there's no choice really to keep going. There's no option other than to do that. But you're right. I'm sure it'll change at some point. So 6 overs gone, and Kevin Hand is off once more. There's no food left, so there's no point in rushing down there. The food has been tremendous here throughout the day. We're very, very lucky as a collective media to get lunch and to get tea as well. And Melissa has certainly made use of that as well.
I've made the most of the bonus bags of crisps as well.
Oh, very nice. We've got a bowling change, and it is Martin Anderson bowl his next over. It's his second over from this end, as that's a nice drive from James Vince, who moves on to 24, and that has come off 16 deliveries.
I went round to kind of look at the sunset because obviously it's got a bit chillier now. It's a lot more enjoyable from our perspective, but I stared straight into the sun. So unfortunately I won't be able to call where the ball is because I've got no corneas left.
Oh, you've got those sort of dark worked out towards deep mid-on. This could be interesting when it's your turn to commentate, as that's a single, and it's 55 without loss. Oh god, this could be interesting. We're in the 7th over here at the Ageas. So McDermott has 31 from 22, Vince 24 from 16. Hampshire yet to use the wicket, and they are just about keeping up with the rate. It's very much just a little. Oh, there's Anderson bowls, edged. Oh, it's in the air, but it's safe. Wide of short third man. Wide from Anderson, and Vince went after it. You've got to be a little bit unlucky, I think, as a batter for it to go to the fielders, but on another day it would.
It may have, but I don't think it was particularly good bowling there from Anderson. As you say, he's got his third and point up in the ring, he's given width, and as a batter, as you say, you've got a licence to swing at that one, and the bat speed of James Vince essentially means that's flying away to the boundary anytime.
Here comes Anderson again, right arm over and bowls, length ball, and Vince works that on the onside. He runs the first one quickly, so does McDermott. Are they going to take the throw on? They are. Helm coming up from deep mid-on, and again as we see that ball lose its speed around the 30-yard circle, fielders coming up from the boundary have a difficult task to keep it down to 1.
It was that communication between the two batters there. You know, they knew straight away that James Vince had perfectly timed that. Not well enough to actually get it to the fielder quick enough, and always a 2.
It's an art, isn't it? Just to keep it to the 30-yard circle as he does there again. I'm sure we're going to get an action replay. They turn for 2. Helmet is again, and that's just a replay of the ball before.
Brilliant. I mean, it's the kind of moments in cricket which, you know, kind of go missed when you look at the highlights packages, unless you were watching the highlights package of Taunton on Wednesday, in which they did include singles. I loved that. I was like, thank you. I would have missed Tom Preston's nudge around the corner for one if we hadn't have been bowled out for 74. But, you know, these 2s really pile up and get Hampshire towards the total.
Yeah, so that's got a little square. Are they going to get 2 here again? I think they are now. They're playing with the fielders here. They're playing with them. Now they've got to do something, because it's 2 every ball the way Vince is picking out those gaps. 65 without loss.
And I was going to say at the start of the over, you mentioned that Hampshire were just above the run rate, and I think the position they're in now after that over, their run rate's more around 9.2, and just keeping it in the 9s I think is going to be comfortable, because as obviously that required run rate will just slip down. I think it's always good to stay on top of it by around 1, because then if a couple wickets do fall, let's say, you know, touch wood from a Hampshire perspective, but then it allows those new batters to come in and just have a few deliveries to settle in. I mean, from the way the Hampshire batters went, you know, from the blocks, it didn't look like they needed much time to settle in, but, you know, different players play differently on this pitch, and this pitch may be suiting Vince and McDermott, but if in the case Prest has to come in, it may not necessarily suit him. So if you're ahead of the rate comfortably, you know, by that one or 2 runs and over, then, you know, it would give those batters just a bit of time to settle. But at the moment, there doesn't really seem to be a need.
And I think you were talking, or we were talking about the pitch and how it would play now. It seems to be holding up nicely, doesn't it?
And the only thing that the Western Storm players really said is Holden comes into the attack and is pushed into the onside. Again, looking for two, but sent back this time was Ben McDermott. I think the right call there in the end, as it was James Vince who would have been running to the danger end. And yeah, all we've really kind of seen is signs of it skidding on, which is exactly what Katie Jones, Western Storm player, said to me. She was like, not really spinning much, not really any inconsistent bounce, but it is a bit skiddy. Holden bowls, driving over extra cover. One bounce, two bounce to the boundary. And there was two fielders in position at extra cover. James Vince went, no worries, I'll go over the top. It's kind of like that children's book where they're trying to go over the hill and they're like, we can't go under it, we can't go over it. That's
all the King's Horses and all the King's Men. No, that's Humpty.
I think my one's got a bear in it. I'm not sure which book I'm thinking of now.
Hang on.
But whatever.
Couldn't go over it, couldn't go round it. Oh,
they've got to go through
there is a
it.
nursery rhyme, yeah.
Bowling again, this time 6 down the ground. Glorious stroke from James Vince. And Hampshire are having a party out there in the middle. The Hampshire fans are having a party in the stands. And at the moment, this target of 172 looks well within Hampshire's reach. Pressure on Holden. 11 runs of his first 3 deliveries. He's in again. Bowls a flatter delivery. Swept fine. Finds the fielder at 45. It's a dot ball, much needed dot ball. Playing under the floodlights now here, of course, and those fans who were previously chasing the sun around have had to settle down, unless maybe they're chasing any heat which is being emitted from the floodlights now. Holden bowling, driven straight to the hands of extra cover. Good bit of work there from Eskenazi, wearing the floppy hat.
Fish and chip vans all lit up.
At one point in the season, you're going to have to go there. You've given them so much promo.
Oh.
Edged, fine. An appeal from bowler and keeper, nothing from the fielders. He's in pursuit of that one. Substitute fielder potentially there. Single taken. Score 77 for none. Vince on 44 and McDermott on 32.
What a difference a couple of nights makes. You know, none of the Hampshire batters coming in at the Taunton ever looked like scoring a run. And in fact, it was a bonus. I think Tom Prest just about got in double figures, and I think that was about it. And it was such a struggle. And yet here, 2 nights later, it just feels a totally different game.
And it's surprising because isn't Taunton renowned as the highest run scoring ground in T20?
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's something to boast about your boundaries being 5 metres long, but it makes the 74 all out more impressive.
Here's Cullen, right arm over, and that's pulled away by Vince. Now that's going out towards deep square leg, so that is just a single. Kept that down well, Vince, as well. And he moves on to 45. And the Hampshire total into 78 without loss. 45 from 26, 32 from 23. McDermott, he's next on strike.
There's been a few results in the other T20 Blast games going on around the country. Worcestershire beat Yorkshire by 2 wickets. Exciting finish in that game. Went down to the second to last ball.
Oh, he goes for a big swing, misses. Goes past the off stump.
And in the T20 between Durham and Northants, Durham won by 10 wickets. They chased down Northamptonshire's 138 in just 13.2 overs, so good for net run rate.
Poor Northants, struggling in the championship. Not a good night in the T20.
Between Warwickshire and Birmingham, Birmingham Bears, they need 25 runs off 5 overs.
Cullen bowls to McDermott, takes the hand off the bat as it's driven out square on the offside. Mr. Mo Abbas is in the building. That's thrown back to the keeper, and they complete 2. I thought you were in Pakistan. Are you back? Have you been? Yeah. I thought you were slipping back for 10 days. You're just over there. Yeah. Nice view. Nice view for it. Lovely outfit, can I just say? You look very smart, can I say? He looks very smart, Melissa, doesn't he?
He does. I like it.
Here comes Cullen in again, bowls to McDermott. McDermott drives in the air and just out the outreach of mid-off, and it goes for 4. Well, sometimes on another night that will go straight to the fielder. This time it's gone slightly wide. Lovely to see you, Mo. He's walking around. If you're listening to us in the ground, Mr. Mo Abbas is going to be walking around, and he's there to say hello and have some selfies.
Dumped him in there.
I have, haven't I? He probably, well, if he also doesn't want to walk around anonymous, does he?
Wow, I mean, the moment he walked up here on the gantry, I felt 10 times happier. It was like this radiant being coming into the room.
Comes in again, and there's a drive by McDermott. He's found the gap. I just feel that the Hampshire batters are just well on top, and they're well set, and it's going to take a mistake to get them out at the moment. 85 without loss.
Keep running you through those scores quickly. Nottinghamshire only need 12 more runs from 5 overs against Derbyshire, so looking like a win for them. It's getting exciting between Gloucestershire and Glamorgan. Glamorgan need 34 more runs from 4.4 overs. Kent need 82 runs from 6 overs, chasing down Surrey's mammoth 223, so that looks a bit unlikely.
Cullen into Vince. Vince works it on the onside. Oh, we're not going to get a 2 this time. And Helm was in like an absolute whippet to make sure it was only 1.
And finally, Somerset need 120 runs from 13.2 overs. So Somerset being presented with a bit more of a challenging run chase today than on Wednesday.
It couldn't have been any easier, that's for sure. Is that Robbie on the screen there? He's in the club shop.
Robbie has been doing a few promotions across the day. He's been that person who's sent out into the crowd and kind of has to conduct the awkward interview where he's like, are you having a good time? And I'd love to know what would happen if the person's just like, no, not really. I don't like the music. My food was burnt. I'm a Middlesex fan. It's been rubbish so far. But he was pointing to inside the Hampshire Hawks t-shirts, they have a little message inside the trim which kind of says, a bit of a cheesy but a nice message saying, never give up, don't ever give up.
Shane Warne saying, yeah.
Oh, it's not cheesy then.
No.
It's just me being uninformed. As that one's cut past the fielder at point. For 4 runs, James Vince moves on to a half century of just 28 balls. Brilliant innings from the captain. He raises his bat to his home crowd. And he's threatened this form, really. I mean, he's been fantastic. He was brilliant against Northampton. The red ball game away, as that one's a flat-batted shot past the bowler, Holman.
Well, he's been good form in the championship, and it's good to see that he's carried that on 52nd time that James Vince has gone past 50.
And when he's in a mood like this, you just feel like anything can happen. So the crowd gets behind. McDermott here looking to reverse paddle and inside edge onto pad. Nothing from the bowler. It's actually Fernandez here bowling. Did think he looked a bit different. Scorecard just a bit behind on that one. He's into McDermott again, bowling a flatter delivery which is lofted over cover straight into the hands of the fielder. The first wicket falls for Hampshire. McDermott looking to give himself room. Hit the ball over the extra cover boundary. Whether he didn't see the fielder there or he just didn't get enough on it, taking on the risk, but he goes for 39 off 28 balls. And Hampshire lose their first wicket at 91 for 1.
Well, he only made his T20 debut last night, Nathan Fernandez, and here he is, getting a big wicket of Ben McDermott. He just tried to open himself out, didn't he, and tried to sort of actually hit it wide of the mid-off fielder, and really just didn't get himself in a great shape to execute the shot, and in the end it was a fairly simple catch.
Yeah, you question whether he just got trapped between two minds there of going fully back and slapping it down the ground, or actually if he'd got a bit more on top of the bounce and just looked to work it square at whether there was a boundary option there. But it brings Tom Prest to the middle, who was of course the captain of the under-19 England's team in that World Cup where they made the final against India a couple of years ago now, and brilliant job then. Since then he's been bossing it in the Hampshire's first team. He's had a few rounds of county championship, probably not found the success there he would have liked, but for now you'd say that T20 is a bit more of his format.
Yeah, a couple of championship games. 23rd T20 tonight for Tom Prest.
Fernandez bowling to Prest, who works that casually to mid-on. Steals a single, gets off the mark straight away. 92 for 1 the score.
Got 100 against the Middlesex second team here in a second 11 championship game a few weeks ago.
There's been some rather big scores in the second 11 games. Did you see Ravi Bopara's score for the Sussex second 11?
Warm-up, T20 warm-up, wasn't it?
Remarkable. Flatter from Fernandez, and Vince works it square of the wicket out to the fielder on the boundary, who's running in, takes a single. Score moves on to 93 for 1. I mean, I always do feel quite sorry for some of these second 11 teams who are, used for a bit of a warm-up. I think it was Josh DeCares for Middlesex in that game, bowled 3 overs for 63 runs. And there was a live footage of every 6 which Ravi Bopara hit, and there wasn't much he could do after a certain point. He kind of laughed off the first few, and then his head just dropped down after the last few. And I was saying he's got much stronger will than I would, because I think after maybe the 5th, 6th, I'd either be crying on the floor or I'd be walking off. I'd be going on any notable job website and Googling available jobs in the area which don't involve me bowling.
I must admit, I did see the film of that. And yeah, it didn't look fun. But I mean, he didn't try anything different. He just sort of seemed to just try and bowl every ball line and length, and either too short or too full. Luke Holman with his off spin, or leg spin actually, that looked like. As that's a lovely drive through extra cover from James Vince. He can't do a lot wrong tonight here. Hampshire's top run scorer in this competition last year with 6, 7, 8. And well, if we just forget about Taunton a couple of nights ago, he started this competition this year in pretty much the same vein.
And there's that cricket draft kind of, which a lot of people I know get involved in, and particularly for the Red Bull stuff, but there is a T20 draft as well, and for most people's teams I saw put out there, James Vince was opening.
You have to.
I mean, it's remarkable, obviously, the question always of James Vince in England. Will it ever work out? Did it ever work out? But there's no argument that he has been one of the greatest county players of the last 10 years.
100%. Here's Holman again then, with his spin, and Vince pulls that away hard down towards deep mid-wicket. Moves on to 57. He'll get a single for his trouble there. He moves on to, well, Hampshire move on to 98. He's played 17 T20 internationals, James Vince. The last against the West Indies back in January 22. Quite a while actually. 98 for 1 then. There's a short extra cover in for Tom Prest. And try and keep him on strike. There's a slip in as well. As Holman comes in down the wicket and hits it in the air, and he's got it past mid-off. Well, I must admit, I wasn't quite sure initially when he hit that in the air. I thought mid-off might have been able to get along, but actually he hit it a little bit better than I thought. But wasn't totally convincing. 100 up for Hampshire.
Yeah, it's almost one of those shots where you force yourself into, feeling confident, and sometimes you've just got to get your feet moving, come down the wicket and prove to yourself that you can play that shot, even if you didn't quite find the middle of the bat.
Holman again. Prest gives himself some room off the back foot, hammers that away to deep cover. Peter Milan out there. Prest moves on to 6, and it's 103 for 1. I nearly said the Vipers. That was earlier. The Hawks need another 69.
One thing which has given me a lot of satisfaction today is we've seen 4 teams play, and all of them have had wonderfully distinctive kits, so that no teams are getting confused, because too many teams are too similar these days.
Down the wicket, Vince drives hard out to deep extra cover for a single. 104 for 1.
The Sunrisers and the Central Sparks essentially have the same kit design, and I think there should be more coordination. But here today, yellow versus pink, easy.
Yeah.
Easy to follow. Green versus orange earlier.
Yeah, it was actually, wasn't it? You're right.
And as I say regularly, Middlesex has one of the best kits.
What, the pink?
Yeah.
That's driven out on the offside. I wonder if the players agree with you on that one. Do you think they would?
I think that, obviously there's a limited number of colours available. Someone's got to be the pink team, and I think you should embrace it. You have the Sydney Sixers. They necessarily haven't found the most success recently, their men's side, but their women's side are hugely successful. And, there's more magenta, I guess, whilst this is the kind of Pink Panther colour. Which would make sense because of their mascot, Pinky the Panther.
Right.
Who became quite a headline because Nick Friend, who's a journalist and does a lot of the stuff at Lords of Middlesex, ran in the Pinky the Panther outfit, which is so heavy it had to be transported up separately to the ground. And I'm pretty sure he had to wear some kind of helmet or neck protection.
Really?
Because it was so heavy on his head, and he came last. But
of course, that was the one you commentated on, wasn't it?
yeah, I got to run alongside it.
Yeah.
I was a bit quicker than him in the Panther outfit, but was probably on par with Hawkeye, I'd say. Change of bowling as Helm from the pavilion end comes in. Good length, worked square of the wicket. Fielder running round to their right from mid-wicket. Gets a single, 106 for 1.
Do you see a day where the mascot race becomes so big? Because it is, I mean, it's quite a major event that actually the mascots will wear these sort of like running type suits.
Couple issues with the mascot race, which I feel it's appropriate to talk about because it's the T20 Blast. It's a big part of finals day. Firstly, some counties enter 2 mascots. How is that fair?
Not.
As Helm bowls, shorter ball, hooked for 4, beats the fielder at square leg, only a few metres away from them, but it was struck so firmly by Vince. He moves on to 50, apologies, he moves on to 62 and the score 110 for 1. So firstly, some counties enter 2 mascots, others enter 1. I feel like there should be some kind of restriction on that because you're doubling your chances of winning and bringing glory and success to your club. Secondly, my biggest qualm is what Somerset have done to Stumpy this year. I think I've brought it up before. Stumpy was lovable. He was quite a large mascot. He never really succeeded that much in the race, but you know, he was a much loved figure. And well, Helm bowls, good length outside the off stump, drops to point, and the fielder keeps that to a dot ball. They've changed him for the worst. As you say, they've made him more athletic. They've almost given Stumpy trainers and a six-pack of muscles, and it's not who he is. Whether he's a dragon or a wyvern, I'm not sure. I don't want to engage in that debate. But they've brutally transformed him into something I don't even recognise. He's not my Stumpy anymore. I do think he will do a lot better in the race this year, though, because of it.
That's why.
Helm bowls, a slow ball bouncer, almost a brilliant take from Simpson. Behind the stumps, there was a bit of glove on it, and coming back for a second is James Vince. Good running, good awareness from the Hampshire captain. Tom Prest a bit hesitant at the other end, slightly younger player.
Runs as well. That's off the glove or part of bat, isn't it? I mean, again, you know, on another day, it goes to the keeper, doesn't it?
Certainly, things haven't quite gone the way Middlesex would have liked. A few edges just going to the side of the fielder, and you just, as you say, on another day, things may have been a little bit differently here, and a few of the catches which went to hand in the Hampshire innings may have just been, they may not have found the fielder so much. They certainly had a way of picking Tom Prest out on the deep mid-wicket boundary. Helm in again, slower ball wide. Have to re-bowl that one. And a jeer from the Hampshire supporters, who, for the few of them who have been in since the Vipers game or halfway through the Vipers game, they've certainly found their voice. They found the bar.
They've certainly done that. Yeah, it's been a good crowd, hasn't it, really? It's not going to be a classic, this, at the moment.
As Helm turns at the top of his mark. Bowls outside the off stump, back of a length, slapped away by Vince, but can't beat the fielder at deep cover. Powerful throw in from the boundary, and the score moves to 114 for 1. Middlesex, I'm not sure whether they've potentially used that slower ball or deliveries which have the potential just to stick in the wicket enough. We obviously saw Helm try a slower ball 2 deliveries ago, but there was a wide, and just not sure whether this pitch has been read particularly well by both sets of bowlers, although that looks very close, maybe going down. Tom Prest there having to hobble to the non-striker's end is a huge appeal from Helm. He looks in some serious discomfort. He's dropped down to his knees and keeps walking along. And
what are we doing here?
It looked like it was going down the leg side. There's a few points here from the players. Was there medical attention needed, or Tom Prest can hardly put weight on that foot, it looks like, which was struck. It was a full delivery from Helm, an appeal from the bowler, not much else from any of the other Middlesex players, and there seems to be a very strange discussion here between all the players. All the Middlesex players have walked into the middle, the umpires got involved, and I can safely say I have no idea what the conversation was out there in the middle.
No, I don't know whether they thought that Tom Prest hadn't made his ground or something. I just don't know. It's odd. Anyway, we're all going to get back and bowl another ball, but I'm not even sure Preston's in a fit state to run to it. That is a very, very painful knock, and you'll feel that in the morning once it stiffens up.
Direct blow on the top of the foot, it looked like. There's Helm in again, wide outside the off stump, and maybe just the crowd getting to him a bit here. It's been a long old over. He's gone for 28 off his 2.5 overs so far. Yeah, I wonder whether it was about Prest getting back in time, or maybe how many players were outside the ring. Maybe James Vince was waiting until the end of the ball to go, hang on a second, you've got 6 out. Not too sure. But here's Helm. Final delivery of the over. Slower ball, back of a length, which is pulled around the corner without much timing from James Vince. He picks up a single, tosses his bat in the air, catches it in frustration. The score 119 for 1. Hampshire going along at a run rate of 9.9. Required run rate now just 6.6.
So we're going to have a slight change as Kevin Hand's going to come in. Do you want to do just a few more, and then I'll take over, from you towards the end. I don't think Kevin Hand really wants to be on commentary. I get that feeling, don't you? I get the feeling he's not really into it. I don't think you're feeling it tonight too much, Mr. Hand. I think you'd be quite happy to sort of get back in the car and go back. At 119 for 1, Hampshire need.
When does the championship resume? No, not at all. No, loving it actually. I was putting the world to rights. Probably about what? Deep old conversation downstairs in the press box about the fact there was no dessert. Here's Ryan Higgins from the Hilton End. 119 for 1. He's in bowls. That's driven down to long off. And Hampshire cruising. 52 to win as they move to 120 for 1. And Vince 66. Prest is on 67. My apologies now. Prest has 9, and stroll in the park for Hampshire, Melissa.
Certainly, and the crowd here seem to have become a bit of a extra player out there in the middle.
Well, they're having to entertain themselves, aren't they? Because it's not much of a competition out there at the moment. What's up with Higgins? He was running in at a fair old pelt and then stopped and looked around, helmet long on, saying something. Higgins is in, he bowls, and this is swung up and into the air. Might be a chance, just short, a deep backward point. Coming around from deep cover, Peter Milan. They take 2. Prest is on to 11, 122 for 1. 3 off the first 2.
Well, it certainly goes to show that with that flurry of wickets at the end of the Middlesex innings, and us saying 170, probably not enough on this pitch. Maybe 190 with more of a competitive score.
Higgins bowl. Half time was, where would Middlesex have been without Milan in that innings? And Hampshire, I'm sure, would have looked at it and said, well, what did Milan do? He's played pretty good cricket shots. Didn't go too hard at it, wasn't silly, made good choices. Higgins in, bowls, and this is hit back in the air, down the ground, and just short, 1 bounce, 4 runs. Prest moves to 15, 126 for 1. And they're well away and well on their way here, Hampshire.
As you say, I mean, the benefit of bowling first, having a look, and Milan didn't play a single real funky shot, which is crazy to say in T20. And at the moment, there feels that pressure to get out there and start trying to impress, as we saw from Higgins. He tried to bring that innovation quite early on, but as we see a lot of the time on this Ageas pitch, you get rewarded when you're playing through the line.
Is it going to go all the way? Yes, it is. 6 more. 132 for 1. Press on to 21. And they're doing this at a canter. 40 to win.
We've seen some amazing partnerships across last season between Tom Prest and James Vince. And you feel that Prest as a player benefits so much from being out there in the middle with James Vince, because he looks a bit uncomfortable his first few deliveries, and he's certainly vulnerable, as most batters are, but you can just see him now replicating those James Vince shots.
Higgins past the umpire, slow ball, and driven down to long on. Single taken, Hampshire 133 for 1, and that is the end of the 13th. 39 to win from the last 7, 9 wickets standing. Prest 22, Vince 67, and Middlesex, well, I looked at that first innings when Milan was going well. I thought they've dusted themselves down from last night pretty quickly, and they need to, because Surrey are a good side, they're a strong side. Don't let that, you know, punch them in the gut early on and wind them for the competition. I thought in the first
to do it, and you know, it's a long old competition this year. You know, a lot of fixtures crammed into a very short space of time, so obviously momentum is important, but there'll be a chance for both these teams to bounce back whatever the result. Fernandez in from the pavilion end, cut to point, tumbling stop from the fielder allows Hampshire to get through for a single.
Yeah, it's Merchant Taylor School on Monday against Gloucestershire. I mean, this one isn't over yet, but it virtually is. So that becomes a very big game. I won't want to open with 3 defeats. Middlesex, it was always going to be a tricky first couple of games. Surrey and Hampshire.
Fernandez bowling on the pads of Vince, who uncomfortably turns that just square of the wicket, waiting for the umpire signal, leg buys. Score moves on to 135 for 1. I mean, Gloucestershire did lose today to Glamorgan, so you can take some faith in that. I mentioned earlier Worcestershire beat Yorkshire by 2 wickets. Warwickshire beat Leicestershire by 5 wickets. Durham beat Northamptonshire by 10 wickets. And Nottinghamshire beat Derbyshire by 4 wickets. As a reverse paddle up in the air, falls just short of the fielder at short third. Chance of a run out. Called through for a quick single there. In the end, was pressed to play the reverse shot. On to 136 for 1. So just the 3 games live now. This game between Hampshire and Middlesex, the game between Surrey and Kent, as James Vince drills the ball past the short mid-wicket out towards the boundary. 2 fielders converge to collect and 2 runs are taken. 100. Did when they scored 223. Kent are 174 for 7, so they're holding out to the very end, but they need 50 runs off the last over, so something would have to go quite wrong, as defending to extra cover is Vince. He's on 69, and then the game between Sussex and Somerset. Somerset need 79 runs from 8.5 over, apologies, 78 runs. Over the head of extra cover, 1 bounce for. The roar James Vince gets from this crowd, just through playing classy, elegant shots, which are just so well adjusted to this format. He picks out those gaps wonderfully. And it brings up a 51-run partnership between Vince and Prest, who's looked pretty comfortable since coming into the middle. There's a dance cam, and no one is dancing in it. They must be Middlesex fans. There we go. We found one man who is prepared to.
Oh, top C wearing there. Is that a cricket top now?
I think it's is it an England cricket training top?
Yeah, it might be one. Yeah.
He was prepared to wave his hands over his head, and the kids are getting involved now. At least they've managed to find some Hampshire fans.
There was an iconic kid dancing here in 2008 when Middlesex won it. As Higgins is in, bowls, he's driven down the ground for a single to long on. They probably need to do like the Teletubbies, baby. Find him now. Where is he? He was on the big screen dancing away. Owe Shah was then. It then cut to Owe Shah, and he was laughing away in the field at the kid on the big screen. They all thought it was great.
So I was at the 2010 finals day here, I believe. It's my first finals day. 10 years old, just to make you feel good.
Thanks. Spurs punched off the back foot for a single outside the off stump, and Vince moves to 70. Did they come back for the second?
No.
74, just a single. I was watching the scoreboard and that was in slow motion, so I was wondering, did I miss something in the middle? But obviously not. Yeah, thanks for that. I was 20. Oh no, how old would I have been then? I was 30, nearly. It's up in the air, this one goes, but over mid-off. It might pitch and plug. No, it pitches and rolls. And that will be 4 more. Presses on to 29, 148 for 1, and the target comes crashing down once again. 172 to win. They need 24 more.
has been relentless. And Hampshire losing no momentum since Tom Press came in.
This is tickled by Pressed off Higgins, just backward a square. Short fine leg comes around in a single. Goodness me, yeah, I was nearly 30. Thanks for that, I really appreciate that. That's going to send me home happily with a second heavy defeat in 2 nights. And the Sunrisers lost their game yesterday, so it's 3 defeats in 2 days for me.
I was tuning into the Sunrisers game and did think you did a valiant job
Oh,
on
thank
your
you.
own for the 40 overs.
Thank you. Here's a full one right up into the block hole, toe end of the bat, bobbles around through the feet of Vince and falls away into the onside. 149 for one. Yeah, Danny Warham's going to join me for that one, but I don't blame her being over in the dugout at Lord's. She stayed over there and watched it from the dugout, and I know it's all good fun. No problem doing a 40 over game on your own, is it? Higgins, last ball of the 15th. The gloves of Simpson, 74 for Vince, 30 for Press, who will have the strike, 149 for one. You need to message, you didn't tweet in while you were listening.
What, for the... No, I
For the
didn't.
Sunrisers game?
I should have.
Shock him.
I know, I'll do it next time. I actually really enjoyed yesterday because I think from about 12:30 to 9 PM you could jump from the Lancashire men's game over to the Sunrisers.
Which I hope you didn't do.
Over to the Thunder, of course I didn't. And then back to the Surrey Middlesex game. So I was thoroughly entertained when I should have been revising.
Oh, what are you revising for?
I've got 3 law exams coming up
Law?
next month.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm in my final stages before.
So you're weighing up being a journalist or a lawyer? Are you sure you don't want to throw a estate agent into it and you can just be the 3 most hated careers in the country? Were you too popular at school? You thought you needed to bring it down a bit?
I've got to make sure that my fan following doesn't get too big. Shut down a few small businesses. Attempted reverse paddle, and it's bowled. Tom Prest. Just one innovative shot too far. Straight delivery from Fernandez, who picks up his 2nd wicket of the night. So I guess a bit of saving grace there in that respect.
Well, we saw in the Middlesex innings that, you know, wickets come and then they tumble through, don't they? And Middlesex had Tom Helm take 3 wickets in the final over of the Surrey innings yesterday evening. So never say never, but this would be quite some collapse if Hampshire weren't to win it from here. But you know what happens in T20 cricket, you take a wicket and all of a sudden there's a little bit of panic sets in. If they did turn 1 into 2 and that other one was Vince, then just maybe there's a little bit of fun to be had before the game is up here at the Ageas Bowl.
Apologies, that wicket taken by Holman.
I didn't notice you said anything else.
Correct answer. Well done. I would have sued you.
I wouldn't take on a lawyer.
Joe Weatherly comes to the middle, who is a very prolific sweeper of the ball, so it'll be interesting to see whether he's down on one knee early on. You can already see a few Hampshire fans just start to trickle out, which I think you should always stay to the end of the game, because as you say, you don't know. The one time I've ever left a game early was actually here at this ground in a T20 played between England and Australia when Aaron Finch hit, I think it's 150, and we decided to leave, I think, when England were about
First
7
T20
down.
international was played here, wasn't it? England, Australia.
Yes.
I was working for BBC Radio Solent that year.
Here comes Holman again, and this is tickled round the corner by Weatherly, who gets off the mark straight away.
Learning my trade from Adam Blackmore and Kevin James. That's why I'm still stuck in the same job 20 years later.
Yeah, it was one of those ones where we went, don't think England's going to chase this down, and there's limited shuttle buses out of the ground, so snuck out. But apart from that...
The shuttle buses, the Ageas Bowl shuttle buses, they're a thing, aren't they? Are they still a thing?
I think so. 150 runs up for Hampshire as this is pulled up-ish, but double bounce to the fielder at deep mid-wicket by Vince. He moves on to 75.
They need to get a little miniature railway through the forest there off to the station, don't they?
I would personally love that. I mean, if we've got the budget here for a hover cover, what's to say?
Yeah, what's a little
we
miniature
can't get
railway.
a little train. Why stop there? Let's get a bullet train connecting the Ageas Bowl and
The train station.
Southampton and the train station, and maybe my house, make things a bit easier. Holman, and again from the pavilion end, a bit of extra bounce that delivery, which is worked around the corner by Vince. A sliding stop from fielder at short fine leg.
Where's home for you? Emily Windsor's Portsmouth, isn't she? Are you the Southampton balance on Solent?
Well, see, I went to uni in Southampton originally.
Yeah.
But I'm now a student in Bristol.
Oh.
And
so you want to train from the Ageas Bowl to Bristol?
Yes, I think it would be convenient for any Hampshire fans who live out there, as this one's driven uppish, but down to wide long off. Just a single taken in the end. And
so where was home originally?
So my parents, who are both here tonight, we're Wiltshire. So probably about an hour and a half drive away from here. It's not too bad. It's certainly made home fixtures a bit easier working for BBC Solent when I lived in Southampton, but I'm committed to the trade. So I make the journey over. Holman bowls, reverse paddle, finds the fielder. No success there for Joe Weatherly. Completes the over. 152. No, it's not. Is that 153?
153.
At the end of the 16th over, and I'll be handing over to Kevin James.
Oh, are you? You gone? Yeah, well, I suppose it's nearly home, isn't it? It's nearly done. Melissa, lovely to meet you. Safe journey back to Bristol. 153 for 2. Oh, what's happened? It's all a tangle. She hasn't unplugged herself. There we go. Problem for JMO and I is usually we haven't plugged ourselves in, but BBC Radio Solent, Friday night out of Blackmore with the sports show. Kevin James, Melissa Story, myself, Kevin Hand, for BBC Radio London, and bringing you a third defeat in 2 days. I'm doing well, aren't I? Sunrisers, Middlesex, and Middlesex again, JMO.
Oh dear, you want to join a decent county?
Here's Helm. For Hampshire, when you finally decide, mind you, you've always said I've got the great gig and you want the Middlesex gig at Lords. Yeah, I said great, you come to Lords every week.
Well, I know I said at some point I would love to sort of do a bit at Lords. Yeah, obviously I'd just love to go back there on a regular basis, but I'm more than happy here.
Why weren't you at Middlesex Old Players Day the other day?
Because there would have been a game. There was a game, yeah. Because I did get an email and I did reply to say I was whatever game was on.
Helm to Weatherly, who's on 2, and it's a full ball down the leg side. It's a wide, 17 to win, 155 for 2. Bit of a damp squib this one, J-Mate, for me.
Yeah, I mean it comes down to the fact that Middlesex just lost their way, didn't they, in those last few overs. They were on for a score approaching 200.
Well, it was the Peter Milan show, wasn't it? Nobody else really stood up. That Kent game, by the way, I didn't realise that they got a century stand in reply. I mean, goodness me, that seemed back in, or was it an off-cutter from him? Either way, nips back and goes through everything, but over the top of the stumps.
Great ball.
How that's missed, how that hasn't taken a bail with it. It was relatively full, wasn't it?
To get that to do that at this time of night with an old ball.
I've just seen the Surrey scorecard: 17, 11, 15, 16, 17, 110. Wow, and then 29 from Clark. Wow. Absolutely astonishing.
He does give it a whack, that Sean Abbott, I tell you. He did in the championship game earlier.
Helm hits the crease now, bowls, and this is hooked away out to deep mid-wicket, just fine. Of the shorter mid-wicket in place. Cracknell instead out on the boundary rope. It is Martin Anderson down there who's fielded it. My eyes are going, Jamie. Well, that's the least of my worries at the moment. 157 for 2.
It's just nice that you've been on commentary for so long, to be honest.
Well, I was catching up with Adam. Sam Moores heads downstairs in the Cricketer magazine. Your mate Vimpney. Nice to have a natter at the cricket, isn't it? That's what it's all about. Helm's in. He bowls, and a length ball which is eased backward a point down to deep third. 158 for 2. When your side's taking a thumping like this, you are ready to get in the car and go home, aren't you?
Oh, definitely. No, no. Listen, I mean, and it's not great. You know, I said the other night at Taunton when we were annihilated that it's not how you start the competition; it's very much how you go through the competition and peak at the right time. That, you know, Middlesex it's going to be 2 defeats in 2. It isn't the end of the world, but you know,
just
as
feels
players,
like it.
Well, as players, you think, oh gosh, you know, this is. Here we go again.
Well, they haven't got anything else to look to. It's not as though, I mean, that's what I said to you about that second 11 game. Well, go on, lads, go and have a go, because we know what the 11's going to be. So see what you can do. As Helm Bowl short, it goes up in the air, should be out at long leg, and it is. Vince goes for 77, 158 for 3. Oh, it's a no ball, the throw comes in, and they are back for the second. I was wondering if there was going to be a run out on it.
There's not enough fielders in the circle.
Oh no.
And Vince knew it.
Oh no. Oh no, 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 no. Free hit, and it's just woken up everybody at the Ageas. Well, do you want to repeat what you just said before that ball?
Well,
players
that is unforgivable as well. But Vince knew it. I wondered why he was running too. I thought, why are you running again?
Oh,
and he knew. I mean, that's why he played that shot. He didn't care whether he hit it up, down, just went for it and carried on running.
Yeah. Well, that's the side who are on the end of a beating tonight. Let's be honest, that's not affecting tonight. The game was up. Well done, and I guess that was just where minds had wandered a little. Helm is in, bowls, free hit, dragged into the onside, slow ball bouncer, and he's through the shot as he picks up a single to deep mid-wicket. And Vince moves to 80. There are 8 to win, 164 for 2.
Yeah, I think he's going to run out of, well, he is going to run out of runs, isn't he? He isn't going to get 100 here tonight, but I don't think this has been a bad over from Tom Helm, to be honest.
Well, he's a great I mean, there really are for a long, long while now, Helm. As you mentioned, he made an appearance, but that was the Pakistan series when they basically called up the C team, didn't they? And they still trounced Pakistan. But, we don't have a very good product, do we? So that's why we needed another one in this country. Here's Helm. He's past the umpire, bowls, and wraps on the pads outside the line of off. So a muted appeal from Helm as Weatherly looks for a pick-up into the onside. End of the over, 17 done, 163 for 2. Just a little bit of time for a classic before we're done for the night. I thought better get it in now. This could be over in the next over.
We never got to this stage at Taunton. I don't think we got past track 5 at Taunton, to be honest. Here we go.
Come on, Adam. I thought he was going to give us a little bump, bump, bum there on the end of it. He's doing his video instead. Didn't even video our dancing, Kev. He wasn't impressed by our dancing.
This is the one song you cannot go to a cricket match and not hear.
I think it's great. People get a bit upset about it, don't they? I think, look, it's tradition now.
So, well, we wait till the music subsides. I think there has been more music tonight, I think, than ever, but it doesn't matter.
Melissa Story played a part in that.
Yeah, apparently she picked some of the tracks, or was something to do with it anyway. Holwood bowls, and that is driven by Vince up towards deep mid-off. Are they going to take the throw on? They are. Whether he's going to have to get a move on? No, he isn't, because that first one was run very quick indeed. In fact, he slowed up on his second. 165 for 2. There are 17 balls left in this game, and Hampshire need just 7 runs. As Holman comes in again from that pavilion end and bowls, and Vince works that into the gap. And Vince moves on to 83, and 6 runs are needed. With 16 balls left, it's going to be a fairly comfortable victory. Just wonder, if Middlesex had got those extra 20-25 runs, could have been an interesting game.
We'd have just had to stay a bit later, wouldn't we? A couple of overs more to watch Hampshire
and
win.
I get the feeling that you wouldn't have liked that too much. I don't know why. Just get that feeling. Here comes Holman again, and Weatherly drives. Oh, it's in the air, but it's just wide of extra cover. Out to the man in the deep. And that is another single. And Hampshire need 5.
Roll on Merchant Taylors on Monday. It's not as far home from that one.
Thank goodness we don't play Durham and
oh no,
and
Fortress Merchant Taylors.
167 for 2. Then Vince is back on strike on 83 as Holman comes in again and bowls, and it's hammered away by Vince, and that's going to be 4 more. 1 bounce. Well, the crowd are just getting in the final few cheers here before this game ends. And it's going to end in a comfortable victory for Hampshire very shortly indeed.
Yeah, a bit of a shame, like I say, it was a damn squibble this one, wasn't it? Middlesex got themselves into a position where they could have gone big, really big, and made it match winning, let alone make a game of it. They could have put on a match winning total in that first innings, but they didn't even put on a total that was game worthy, really.
Scores are level, and this could be the end, and Vince just tucks that neatly into the covers and jogs through for a single. The crowd cheer, get to their feet, and that has been a comfortable victory for Hampshire this evening by 8 wickets with 13 balls to spare.
At a canter, Hampshire the winners with one too many outside the circle. That's going to hurt, I think. I don't think it hurts too much because it didn't affect the game. They'd lost their way slightly because their minds were wandering. I think they were thinking about the motorway as well by that point. They were thinking about what had happened in this game, what happened last night, the start to this competition, how they're going to put it right for Monday. Listen, they're a good side. They've got, how many did we say, 600 players. Beyond that, they've got Milan. They've got a couple of decent youngsters as well. What they really don't have is anyone banging the door down to get into this side. Maybe Tilan Wonalawita, but yeah, there's not really anybody banging the door down to say, give me a chance, especially with the bat, and I think that's where Middlesex over the years have just always been a little bit light with the big hitters, and we saw that again today. You've got a guy who's got 80, someone's got to go and play around him, haven't they? Even a cameo there from somebody just to play around him and take it on, but they knew they were up against it. Surrey last night, Hampshire tonight. I said they have to dust themselves down off that, and Surrey had kind of being one of them, and they put in a better performance tonight in that first innings, but once Hampshire were off and running in this chase, well, there was no stopping them.
Yeah, I mean, listen. If you look at the fixtures, you've had 2 tough opening fixtures. Surrey beat us twice, and we won the competition, so that's not an easy one. And you've played us defending champions.
You couldn't have had it tough for the first 2 games, I don't think.
It's tough. So listen, it's 2 defeats in 2. As Hampshire know, that's not the end of the world because they've started the last 2 seasons off very, very poorly indeed. So, but what you've got to do is sort of learn from your losses and work out. You know, they're probably going to have to make 1 or 2 changes now. You can't have two losses and not make any changes. They were the same side tonight. Maybe there's 1 or 2 to do something. I don't know. That's for the Middlesex hierarchy to worry about. But the good news from a Hampshire point of view is that after that Tuesday night annihilation by Somerset, Hampshire are very much back.
Well, the guy who who's come in, Fernandez, 1 for 15 off 2 tonight. He went all right yesterday evening. He got a wicket. It was his 2nd ball in professional cricket, the 19-year-old. So he hasn't really let anybody down. I wonder, Toby Rowland-Jones, is Toby Rowland-Jones the man who perhaps needs to come back in, just add that bit of experience? When he bowls well, he bowls brilliantly, and I thought we saw it in the One-Day Cup last year and in the 100 as well, in the Blast as well at times. When he puts it, it's a heavy ball, isn't it? Even in white ball cricket, it's a heavy ball from Rowland-Jones, and sometimes when they're trying to tee off on a length from Rowland-Jones, that extra bit of bounce brings him into the game. So maybe TRJ is the answer. We shall see. But as you say, that's for greater brains than ours, and there's many of those, Kev.
Kev, thank you very much. Always nice to see you. We'll see you at Radlett very shortly. That's the return.
Is it Radlett for you again this year?
It's Radlett again. Yeah.
There's no Lord's trip for you this year.
No, again you're keeping us away from Lord's, but that's the way it is. Thank you to Melissa Story. We've had a great day here. It's been billed as the Day of Champions, and those champions have maintained their, well, I wouldn't say a winning streak, but certainly the Vipers have. 2 out of 2 for them, having beaten Western Storm convincingly earlier this afternoon. That was live commentary. We brought you live commentary of this game here this evening. A win for the Hampshire Hawks, a convincing win by 8 wickets. Hope you've enjoyed watching, hope you've enjoyed listening, and there'll be some reaction a little later.